Check, check. All right. What's going on?
Hi, guys.
What's up, everybody? How are you?
Welcome to Geeking Poetic podcast channel. Are we audible out there? Can everybody hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, we're here.
Are we in the chat? Yeah, Meg, you got to pull up
Hold
that
on,
chat.
I'm going to pull it up. It was up there a second ago, but you got a lot going on that screen.
You're going to have to pay attention on there.
All right.
All right. What's going on, everybody? It is, it's the joys of live broadcasts, right? We're all just going to...
Hold on, I got to figure this out. We're going to play on our phones.
We're just going to all play on our phones the whole time. Yeah, what's going on? As you can see, I will introduce us for those. Well, there's going to be an audio version of this later anyway, but for those that don't know, I'm one of your hosts, Larry Roberts. This little phone-wielding monkey in the middle is none other than...
Megan Guess.
And then look who's back.
Hi, I'm Matt Valukas.
Guess who's back?
Back again.
Mr. V in the house.
we got to work on our writing.
I never said I had mad flow, all right? So, I mean, that's just the way it is. But anyway, we are here. Hopefully you all can hear us fine. I really hope so. It looks like I'm peeking out a little bit there, but whatever. And peeking out, I mean,
yeah, I was thinking like you're on the side of the screen.
Like, is something peeking out? Oh, that's a problem. Yeah, we are here with another one of our top fives. Last time Matt was in the house, we did a top five about what did we talk about?
Ensemble comedies.
Ensemble comedies. Ensemble. It was those ensemble comedies.
Ensemble.
Ensemble.
French for assembly.
We did that. That was back in December.
It was, yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, that was like almost 2 months ago.
A long, long time ago. I can't remember what the fuck we talked about.
It's okay. I can't figure out how to get
it was 2.5
comments.
hours of awesomeness.
Was it?
It was. I thought so, but I was on screen, so I was very happy.
You were just happy to be here.
It totally was.
So, what we are doing here tonight, if you saw the title of this and everything, you're like, what are they talking about? McMuffins.
McMuffins. The movie McMuffins.
I love McMuffins.
I want an egg McMuffin.
Oh, man. I love egg McMuffins, too. I'm a big fan. But that is not what we were talking about. What we were talking about is movie MacGuffins. Not MacGyver either.
No.
Oh, I love MacGyver, too.
MacGyver is pretty awesome.
Yeah, you do love your MacGyver.
I do.
Oh, yeah. Richard Dean Anderson. Oh, he is the shit.
Okay. Selma, just settle down there. But yeah, Matt, I mean, this was, we have Matt back again, and I'm sure we're going to have him back plenty more in the future, but this was your idea.
It was.
It was. And I was
Fabulous idea.
I was very excited that you guys kind of jumped onto this pretty quickly. So I was watching Red Notice on Netflix just most recently, and the topic of a MacGuffin came up actually in the movie. They self-referenced it, and I'm like, I've heard that term before, and I just didn't remember it. So I had to look it up. And a MacGuffin is an object in a movie that moves the plot along. It doesn't have to be a significant object, but it's something that basically it happens, and then the plot goes in a certain direction because of that.
Because of the object. So it can't just be any old object.
No.
Right.
It can't be like, hey, I love lamp. Cool, let's go. No, it's something. The way I view it is, I equate it to like watching Endgame. The Marvel movie, where like the timelines shift, something happens, and whatever that something is, that object causes the movie, the plot to go in a specific direction. And like I said, it could be something incredibly meaningful. It could be like in Titanic, the necklace. Everything happens because of that necklace.
Right.
They go in search of it. She tells her stories. The entire movie happens, but it's very central to the plot of the movie. But a MacGuffin could also be like if I walked into the room and said, Megan, here is a gumball. You need this gumball. There's dudes that are going to come in 30 seconds and they're going to mess you up if you have this gumball, so I don't want it. And I leave. And suddenly you're thrown in the middle of this mix. That MacGuffin takes you on this path to go wherever it is you're going to go.
Even if the gumball don't mean shit.
Yeah,
it was just something you handed.
Gumball, yeah.
It could have been anything you handed me.
Yes, it could have been.
Okay.
It could be a Q-tip. It could be anything. But there's a path that you're suddenly on because you're not holding that object that I gave to you. That's how I view a MacGuffin.
Okay. All right.
Do you guys? How do you?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Pretty similar, yeah. It's something that made the plot go forward that necessarily didn't further the plot.
Correct.
Now, here's something I want to bring up. I'm going to kind of lead into it for you, Meg, because I know we talked about yours, and yours are kind of interesting because you took a little bit of a different angle. What are you doing?
Well, somebody had mentioned on
talking his pedal's leaf. It's our MacGuffin.
Yes,
It is the MacGuffin.
Yes.
Damn. So, yeah, especially like if Meg just grabs that bottle and whacks me over the head with it, which might
happen.
And that takes us on a completely different path.
Just put it down.
Wow.
She's in a very, very feisty mood
We're
tonight.
angry already.
Yeah, I've already been whacked a few times by her and stuff. Punched.
He had it coming. Anyway, you were saying?
I was saying that you took a little bit of a different angle because I know you looked up stuff and you found out that that in some circles, a MacGuffin doesn't just have to be like an inanimate object.
It could be a person.
It could actually be a character as well, as long as the character is not like a
Vital.
Yeah, as long as it's, or it's like a character that gets brought up a lot, but you never even really see them in the movie. You know what I mean? Something like that. Now, how do you feel about that, Matt?
I'm
fucking
curious
disagree.
I kind of do. I think I don't know. I'm curious to see how the conversation goes.
Okay.
Because and again, I'm just going by everything that I've read about a MacGuffin. It's usually an object. It's something inanimate that happens. But I'm open to a discussion
What we
about
do.
What
Okay.
we do, yes.
Yeah, because I have one. I was like, do I use it? Do I not use it? We'll see.
But it's funny, at the same time, I have a couple of choices on here that, in my mind, there are multiple MacGuffins throughout the movie that take it forward.
I have that as well. One of mine has multiple MacGuffins, so they just call me Multiple MacGuffins. That was my Dirty Dozen name when it was a baker's dozen.
Was it?
There was 13 of them. I was that guy. I didn't do anything crucial for them to break out. I just made the food. They called me Larry Multiple MacGuffins Roberts.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just riffing. And so I think, Meg, yours is going to be a little bit different. I think Matt's and my lists are going to be a little bit more similar in terms of how we laid things out. Because I'm not sure about all this. Even some of my picks, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if these all perfect. Some of them I very much feel like, yes, that fits the bill perfectly. And then there's other ones that I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. So
I think we should just dive in and see what they are then.
Yeah. Kaiser Soze. Yeah, exactly. See, people are bringing up like Kaiser Soze, like from was Usual Suspects, right? A lot of people consider that to be a MacGuffin.
Thank you.
I see Joe. Hey, Joe, how you doing? The briefcase.
Yeah, briefcase is, that's a big MacGuffin. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%.
Turn your mic a little bit.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
It likes to rotate on me.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's all twisty.
It is.
But yeah, let's just dive into it. We're going to start with our number 5s. And we're just going to let's just talk about each one of them as we go along rather than do the list and everything because otherwise it's going to be like 2.5 hours long.
No, we're trying to keep those ones shorter, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to try. I promise nothing, but we're going to try. I got these two, so it could go on for
The road to hell is
hours.
paved with good intentions, my friends.
So Matthew, you are the guest, so to speak. I mean, you're part of the tribe now. More,
Yay!
But
you heard it
We've
here first.
initiated you in.
But you are on the end, so we will work this way.
Okay.
So why don't we go with yours first?
Mine, there's a couple in here that I feel like are just gimmies.
Yeah.
And my first one is Citizen Kane. Rosebud. The sled in that is a MacGuffin for the entire movie. And if you have never seen Citizen Kane, which I highly recommend that you do.
It's great.
It came out in 1941. It was an Orson Welles movie. He wrote, directed, produced. I mean, he had his hand in just about every aspect of this. But the story is of William Randolph Hearst, who was based on... I'm sorry, it was Charles Foster Kane.
That was based on
William Randolph Hearst.
Yeah.
But he's dying, last breath, and he mutters the word Rosebud. And this entire movie is trying to unravel the mystery of what Rosebud is. And it basically goes back and tells the story of Charles Foster Kane's life, how he was this poor kid who had some just normal, regular, everyday toys to play with. One of them, you find out, was a sled. And it turns out that the land that his family owns, they end up, I forget if it's oil or if it's gold. I think it's gold that they find, but it's one of the two. But they become insanely rich from it. So Charles Foster Kane becomes this publisher. He becomes like this mogul, and ups and downs throughout life. But basically, at the end of the movie, you find out that he is a little bit unfulfilled by things. And you find out that as he has passed away, after he's buried, they are inventorying his house. And there's this sled that just seems like this piece of junk. So they go ahead and they throw it on the fire to be burned. And as they throw it on the fire, you see that the brand name of the sled is Rosebud. And the idea behind it is that the only time that he was really happy was before he had money, before he had all these things, when life was just more simplistic when he was younger. And one of the reasons that I personally, I love this movie, and like I said, this is almost like a gimme when it comes to MacGuffins. But I have a degree in radio, television production.
Right.
And we had spent one of our courses just dissecting the heck out of this movie from a filmmaking standpoint. And at the time when it was first done, Orson Welles came from a theater background. So he applied everything in theater to film. So he made so many mistakes based on coming from that theater background. You did it a certain way in film instead. But the things that he brought in from theater, he loved the idea of low angles. So he would actually dig out the floor wherever he was filming and have the camera. I mean, they were huge in the 1940s.
Right.
Like it was dug into the ground so he could get these great upward shots.
Yeah. I mean, that was such a signature of him.
That,
nobody did that before.
He did a thing that was called the sharp focus. Deep focus. And what deep focus was at the time in filmmaking, you had one character that was very in focus and everything else was soft focused all the way around. So you knew who you were looking at. And he said the audience is smarter than that. You don't need to focus on just what's going on. You can give this an entire world of what's happening. So he was one of the first to kind of pioneer foreground, middle ground, and background all being in focus at the same time.
Right.
And allowing the audience to look at that kind of stuff. So to me, it's not only the MacGuffin of the storytelling, which I think is fantastic, but for me, it's the way that film was made in 1941. It was miles ahead of the films that were being done at the time. And there are several people, Hitchcock included, who still use a lot of those tips and tricks today that Orson Welles kind of brought to life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's it's a good pick because any one of us could have picked that because that is the granddaddy of all MacGuffins. I mean, that is it. I mean, it's if you have to explain, there's a couple ones like somebody brought up, like the briefcase, from Pulp Fiction, everything. Like there's certain things that I think are like the most standout, and Rosebud is obviously the number one because I mean it's just the sled. It doesn't, spoiler alert. Yeah. I mean, it's just the sled. I mean, it really wasn't important, but.
No, not at all. But for him, that MacGuffin for him was the time that he was happy. And
yes.
That's, I just love the idea behind that the entire movie, like people are trying to pick it out. Is it a long lost secret? Is it treasure that's hidden somewhere? Is it something else? And it was the MacGuffin that to anybody else, Charles Foster Kane, that sled meant nothing, but to him, it meant the world.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And it didn't get any like real deep explanation either. I mean, like, it was just, and I love the way it just ends with them with the fire and the rose. Yeah, it's
at the end, like nobody knows his secret. It literally died with him.
Yes, total class. Yeah, so I think that's a great choice. What do you think?
Yes, that's number one choice. Yeah. I was very happy when I saw your list. I was like, oh, yay. Good.
Yeah, I mean, I could have put that in. Yeah, I was glad you did that. You ended up picking. Well, I think we all did. Each one of us have a few in our list or a couple in our list that are sort of like the universally regarded MacGuffins, like everybody, like I just said, like that. But then, I think we all wanted to mix it up a little bit too.
Absolutely, yeah.
And throw in some other things that it's like, oh, people might not think about that. Yeah, I think that's great. All right. So, Meg, let's move on to you.
All right. Well, I try to choose things that I haven't already spoken a ton about. So I went with 2016 Central Intelligence. This has Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson in it. It's, I don't know, it's kind of a cute little buddy movie. Kevin Hart plays the Golden Jet, Calvin the Golden Jet, and he's like the top man on campus in high school, right? Okay. And Dwayne Johnson, I almost called him Jackson, is his name.
Wrong dude entirely.
Yeah. His name in this movie is Robbie Weird Dick. Yes.
Wait, what's his name?
Weird Dick.
Robbie Weird Dick.
Robbie Weird Dick.
That's his name.
That's a bummer.
Poor kid. And he's like this chunky, overweight, shy kid. He's in the shower, and these kids pick on him and take him out and throw him in the gym during this big assembly completely naked. And Calvin takes pity on him and puts his Letterman jacket over him.
Okay.
He says, cover up, don't mind them. Just, they're being idiots, and runs off. Like, this is the last day of school, their senior year. And so it's like 20 years later, they're about to go to their 20-year reunion, and Calvin gets this friend request on Facebook from Bob Stone.
Okay.
He's like, who the fuck is Bob Stone? And I should say, Calvin married his high school sweetheart.
Okay.
And they're having like all these troubles, getting stuck in a rut. And Calvin's like, I'm a loser. I peaked in high school. This sucks. I don't know what I am. I don't want to go to this stupid reunion. And he ends up going to meet with Bob Stone, who he finds out is Robbie Weird Dick. And now Bob Stone is his big rock. He's the rock. Now,
He's the rock.
he's like, oh my God, look at you. You look amazing. And basically, it turns out he's kind of idolized Calvin all these years because of what he did for him. He stuck up for him. And he's like in the CIA, and he's undercover spy and all this stuff, and they get sucked into this whole thing. Is Robbie Weird Dick a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Do we really know? Did he really kill this person? Did he not kill this person? Who's the bad guy here? And like Calvin's stuck between a rock and a hard place, trying to choose.
A rock and a hard place. Sorry, go on.
He made me lose my train of thought. Seriously.
So is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy?
So he's a good guy, is he a bad guy? And like the whole time he keeps remember high school, and standing up to bullies against them. And because they get in a bar, and Calvin's like, you know what, the guys are being assholes, so just leave. He's like, no, I don't do bullies. And he kicks the crap out of them.
Yeah.
And the whole time the jacket kind of gets left behind. It gets mentioned at one point. It's like, oh yeah, my Letterman's jacket. I forgot about that. I wonder whatever happened to that. And Robbie's like, oh, it's somewhere. Well, turns out Robbie still fucking has it. He sleeps with it naked, which is weird but sweet at the same time.
Does he really? I've never
he really
seen this
does.
movie, so that's amazing.
It was
It's an awesome
really
movie.
cute. I really enjoyed this one. I just watched it the other day. I was like, oh, this is perfect for MacGuffins.
Well, and it is because I love this movie, and I love Kevin Hart and The Rock together. They've got a great chemistry.
Yes.
They've been in a couple different movies together. And I hadn't really thought about the jacket in that kind of regard, but I mean, for Robbie, it takes his life in another direction because of that. Because somebody actually was kind enough to him in one of his most embarrassing moments in life. Good choice. I totally agree with this one.
Yay, I got one.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. Here, hang on. Sorry, folks. Live.
Are you twisting?
Wait. Turn it that way. Now talk.
Like this?
That's better.
Is it better? Okay.
Yeah, because you turn your head a lot.
I do.
So then if you have it like that,
Yeah.
and now we're all good. And can I have my water?
Your water? Yes.
You could do
My
little
water.
baby
I
water.
got a little baby water. I like these little short, stubby waters.
Like gherkin waters.
Yeah, they're short and kind of stubby and stout like me. All right, so that's it. Yeah, that's fun. Now I want to see this movie.
Yeah,
You should.
it
It's
was
awesome.
really cute.
All right. Pardon my reach.
It sounds. Well, I mean, I love The Rock. I love Kevin Hart, but I like that. I like the way that ties in, and I do know it kind of ties in more at the end too, doesn't it? In a way, or is it just that he finds out that he's had it this whole time?
Yeah, he gives it back to him at the end. He's like,
I see.
yeah.
That's
He's
what
like,
I
oh my
thought.
gosh, you kept all this time. He's like, yeah, I slept in it almost every night for the past 20 years naked, but here you go. I cleaned it good. Just promise you.
Oh God,
He's like, thanks.
that's pretty good.
And that was basically it. That's all. But it set the whole movie off.
Well, one of the other things too I liked about the movie is that Robbie still calls him the Golden Jet. Like he's
Yeah.
still living that who Calvin was in high school. 20 years later, that's who he is. And I love the idea that people change, but you've got this idea of somebody in your head that even if they've evolved,
Right.
you've built them up and put them on this pedestal for it, and it's not necessarily how it is. But you see the two of them kind of 20 years later work to make each other better people, or realize that who they are, it's okay, that the path that they thought they were on isn't necessarily where they ended up, but that's okay.
Right.
You're okay where you ended up. I think it's a really cool message in the end.
Yeah, it is.
And it's just funny too.
Awesome.
It's a
All right.
win-win.
Nice. Well, we mentioned earlier about how we have some where we have multiple MacGuffins in one movie. And my number 5 pick is one of those. And it's a movie that I've talked about on the podcast briefly in the past, but not in any great detail. But it's one of my all-time favorite movies, and it is a John Boorman movie from 1980. It is called Excalibur. Have you guys ever seen that movie?
It's been a long, long time.
I don't think I ever have.
Oh God, it's
Sword movie, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's about Excalibur. It's
wizards and stuff.
Yeah, it's about Merlin and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of an adaptation of the old Le Morte d'Arthur story and everything. But it's most people that I've seen when they talk about this movie and they talk about it in terms of a MacGuffin, because it gets brought up a lot in these articles and these discussions, they always bring up Excalibur. It seems like the obvious thing, you know. There's this sword, and I do see that. I kind of feel like, in a way, it's almost too obvious for me that it, you know, Excalibur. Well, the fucking movie's called Excalibur, man. You know, it's like, of course, you know, we all know the story of Excalibur. But one interesting thing that they incorporate into this movie, and it doesn't. So the first half of the movie is basically, I would guess you would say that the driving object of the movie is Excalibur, but the real MacGuffin that comes in somewhere about halfway through the movie is the Grail. Now, they never call it the Holy Grail. They just call it the Grail. You're supposed to basically believe it's that. And it's really interesting because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, but you know, everything's going bad. Morgana has taken over, and Arthur's in poor health, and Lancelot is run off because he's tormented by he's in love with Queen Guinevere, and he's supposed to be their best friend, and all this other shit. All this crazy shit is happening, and all of a sudden Arthur tells his knights, tells the round that you got to go seek out the Grail, and you know, to restore what was once lost, kind of thing. And what's funny about it is literally, I mean, they even kind of say in the movie, not this crassly, but the knights are all sort of like, the fuck is the Grail? Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, what do you mean the Grail? Where'd this come from all of a sudden? All we've heard about for the last hour and a half is the fucking Excalibur sword. Everything's great now. Now everything's going to shit, and you're telling us we got to find a Grail. And Arthur doesn't even really explain to them. And they're even asking him, you know, Percival's like, well, where do we find this Grail? Like, can you at least tell us? And he's just like, follow signs, look for, you know, different, you know, signs and portents and things like that, and you'll figure it out. And they're just like, okay. So then the whole second half of the movie is basically about like Arthur's just withering away, right? He's not even that old, but it's just, and you don't even really totally find out what the fuck that was all about, but he's withering away. Morgana, his evil half-sister, is like taking over. The land is turning to shit. Like, the people are giving up on him because you find out that what it is the Grail ends up representing, even though in the movie Percival literally, spoiler alert, Percival literally finds the Grail by going inside. He almost dies. He's like on his death, like he's literally dying. And it's like he goes into himself, into some other realm, and he finds the Grail, and he brings it back to Arthur, and Arthur drinks from it. And he realizes that really what the Grail symbolizes is that Arthur forgot what his purpose was in life, that he and the sword and the land are one, and one can't really like exist without the others. So if Arthur's giving up hope, then everything goes to shit. You know what I mean? Like it's all like a symbiotic thing. I know it's like, even just trying to explain this to you, like the super Reader's Digest version of it is really confusing. But so they get the Grail finally, and then it's like, you know, everything's great again and stuff. And then Arthur and his knights rise one last time to get back at Mordred and Morgana and all this stuff, and the land starts to prosper again, blah, blah, blah. And then it kind of ends with after Arthur and everybody's dead, Percival is instructed to take the sword and throw it back into the lake, where the Lady of the Lake, who's the broad that fucking first gave him the fucking sword in the beginning, takes the sword back and disappears. That's the end of the story. Yeah, it's medieval, man. You know, it's one of those things. But the thing is with the Grail, it's like, I saw that look. The thing with the Grail is I thought it was like a really good example, and I don't see people bring it up that much with it. It reminds me of another movie that has to do with a similar item. It's one of those things where the Grail ends up being so important in a sense because, like I said, it becomes the narrative for the second half. I mean, this is like a 3-hour long movie, and the last second hour and a half of it is all about this Grail thing. But you never really even know like what it does. I mean, we know what the Grail is because we've heard about it. You know, most of us have heard about it in some way, shape, or the Holy Grail and all that stuff. But they really don't explain it. And like I said, it just kind of comes out of nowhere, becomes this item that they bring up out of nowhere. Like, oh, you got to get this now. And the whole movie is driven by this now at this point. And you don't get to explain, like, where'd it come from? Why does it work this way? How did you even know about it in the fucking first place that you knew you needed the Grail? Like, they're nothing.
See, to me, that whole suspension of disbelief, that would bug the shit out of me. It's like, why suddenly is that important? Why? I need more exposition.
I could see that.
Suspension of disbelief isn't the proper term. Maybe exposition. I want more.
I could see that. If you watch the whole movie, I mean, like I said, it's the dialogue and the way the story's told, you go, okay, yeah, this is a story that was like conceived in, 700 years ago. Like it feels that way. You know what I mean? It's
I can't wait to watch it then.
No, it's give it a chance.
It feels like it was conceived 700 years ago. You're going to love it.
No, it's actually really good. It's got some incredible scenes. The music is fucking amazing. It's a lot of Wagner and stuff like that and the way they use it.
Colin seems to like it. Mr.
Does he?
Smoking Cigs 357. Yeah. Colin said it's amazing.
It is. It's a really, really good movie. The way I'm explaining it, because I'm trying to make it so brief, it's like, what?
There's a lot going on.
If you watch it and everything, you'll understand, whether you like it or not, I don't know. But it is an incredible movie. So, and I thought it was one of the first things that came to my mind when you brought up this, is I was just like, oh, the Grail. Like, that's how I feel about that item, is just like, all of a sudden it was like this what the fuck item that gets brought up, but it totally drives the movie. Yeah. And then it's totally
like, from the sound of it, it is me handing you that Q-tip and be like, here, go.
Yes.
Like, it's that
in a matter of speaking,
about it.
And there's all this power in that Q-tip existing and stuff, but why?
What is Q-tip?
Exactly.
Colin says Camina Burana. What is that? Is that?
Oh, that's the theme music that they use in Excalibur.
Okay.
That's dun, 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 dun. Ozzy uses it for his intro.
Does he? Okay.
You'll know it if you hear it. But anyway, of course, Colin's going to be all over the music part of it. All right, so moving on to number 4, we're going to go with you, Matthew. What is your...
My number 4 does stick with the Grail theme. I picked The Last Crusade, Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. And to me, every single Indiana Jones movie, it relies heavily on a MacGuffin of some kind. It's, it's the idol, it's the Ark of the Covenant, it's the heart of, what's his name? Kalima.
Kalima!
It's the Crystal Skull, which...
Oh, boy.
That.
It's the refrigerator.
But to me, The Last Crusade... This is the one to me that has 2 MacGuffins in it. One, the obvious one, is the Holy Grail, The Last Crusade, and looking for that Holy Grail. But to me, that's not the important MacGuffin in it. To me, it's the diary that he gets from his dad.
Okay.
So, basic plot of the movie: Indiana Jones. He finds out that the Holy Grail does exist. That he wants to go. I forget who was searching for it. Somebody at the university that he teaches at says that we had somebody that was out exploring looking for the Grail. That person is now lost. We're hoping that you can find that person as well as the Grail. Indiana says, no thanks, I'm done. I have no interest in it whatsoever.
You got the wrong Jones boy or something?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, got the wrong Jones boy. So it turns out Indiana Jones goes home after finding out about all this stuff to find his place is trashed. And a couple of days earlier, he had gotten a package. So he goes to unwrap this package and he finds out it's his dad's diary that has all the chronicles about the Holy Grail. Indiana Jones's father, early on in the movie, you find out is just obsessed with the Holy Grail. They have issues as father and son. They don't get along very well at all. But now that Indiana Jones's father is in trouble, that he now has the Grail from his father, it sends him on the mission to go ahead and find his father as well as the Grail itself. But like I said, this is that multiple Grail. And to me, it's as much as I love any, almost any Indiana Jones movie, fuck the Crystal Skull. But I love the idea that this one was a father-son story as well. You know, it's one of Sean Connery's last acting gigs before he retired.
Right.
You know, he was just the perfect person to play Harrison Ford's dad in this movie. But I love the idea that Indiana Jones, he was like, this one's beyond me. I have no interest in the Grail whatsoever. Holy crap, my dad's out there. I got to go save him. I got to figure it out.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like I agree with you, man. The more I think about it, I feel like that diary is just as much, if not more so, the main MacGuffin in this movie because
The Grail, absolutely. I think so too, because he needs the diary to save his dad a second time
right
after he's shot.
Yes.
Right. The diary ends up being more important than the Grail in a way, but it's still just the diary. It's still just that thing that drives it along. You know, the Grail may be the goal, you know, but the diary's the MacGuffin.
Yes.
That's what I think. So that's a cool choice.
Yes, I was very happy.
Thank you. Yay.
And I think, but no, I'll give you some extra props on that too, because I've seen this movie brought up a lot in the discussions about MacGuffins, but everybody always mentions the Grail and people don't mention the diary. But I think just like what I was saying about Excalibur, you know, it's not the sword, it's the Grail, and that I think is the true MacGuffin. And this one, I think, you know, good super sleuthing there.
I think if the story was told from Indiana Jones's father's point of view, for him, it's the Grail that sets him on that path. But to me, for Indiana, it's getting that diary from his dad that then sends him off on that.
Right. In the movie, it's Indiana Jones. You know, it's not, you know, Dad Jones, you know.
we named the dog Indiana.
Yeah, we named the dog Indiana. It's not about good old Rusty Jones either.
No. Hey, so sidebar.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear my impression of Sean Connery's dog?
Sure.
Oh, no.
Woofsh.
Whoosh.
Woofsh. Woofsh. Thank you. I'm here all week.
Oh, I love it.
Oh wow, yeah, that is Megan. That is Megan humor,
And that's
right
why I
there.
love Megan.
Oh, God.
All right, nice. That was a great choice, Megan.
Yes.
What is yours?
All right. Well, I think I have a debatable one here for you guys.
Okay.
So I've been dying to talk about this movie, so I made it fit, okay? So I chose 1991's Oscar.
Okay.
So Sylvester Stallone, it's got Tim Curry in it, Marissa Tomei, Kurtwood Smith, so it's packed full of stars.
Yeah.
So Sylvester
Silly
Stallone is named Angel Snaps Provolone. He's a gangster, obviously.
He's named after a cheese.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, love it. And his opening scene, he is going to visit his father, who is dying. He's
Okay.
going to visit him on his deathbed. And his father basically beats the shit out of him, says, stop being a douchebag and go straight. Stop being a
Gangster. Yeah.
criminal. You're shaming the whole family. Do right by yourself and your family. So he's like, all right. I'll go straight. So my MacGuffin is the dying father's promise, because that sets the whole movie off, because the entire movie takes place in one day. And it's the day Snaps Provolone goes straight. He's going to become a banker. And that drives the entire movie. So, and really, it has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Because, you know, I mean, another MacGuffin could have been Oscar, because Oscar's the chauffeur who gets his daughter pregnant. She's not really, well, I'm going to tell you that.
Okay.
But he's not even in the movie until the very last. It's like, who's Oscar? He's the chauffeur.
Yeah, see, when you brought up this movie to me, that was what I thought. I thought you were going to, that's why I thought Oscar was the MacGuffin. Because, yeah, he's kind of like, he's I mean, he's a character, but he's not, you know what I
Even
mean?
in the
Like
movie. He's in the movie for like 2 seconds.
and they
At the
even
very end,
named
they're like,
the fucking
"Get
movie
away."
about him, and he ends up kind of being, yeah, an impetus for all these things happening, but he's not actually like an active character in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
So wait, he's the chauffeur?
He's the
Yeah.
chauffeur.
So how does he play into the movie? I don't know. I know nothing of this movie.
He was the lover to Snap's daughter.
right.
And
Okay.
she told her father, because she wants out of the house because she feels stifled and in prison. She tells him that she's pregnant, and he's like, oh my God, I'm going to kill him. And then, he thinks the accountant is in love with his daughter because he told her so. And then he's stealing all this money from him. He's like, if I wasn't going straight today, you would be 6 feet underground right now. So the whole thing like goes back to the dying father's promise. Like, I'm trying to go straight. I'm trying to be good here. You guys are all trying to patience real hard right now.
So
I'm going to
how
kill
does-
Oscar. I'm going to kill the accountant.
So how does Oscar like play into this? Is it like, does he take him certain places in the limo? Or are there conversations that he has with Snap?
You never even see
you
Oscar.
never see Oscar.
Oscar's
That's the
not
whole
even in the
point.
movie.
He's brought up because he
Is the lover of the daughter.
is the lover of the main character's
and
daughter.
Snaps thinks he got her pregnant. He's like,
And
we
it-
got to find Oscar. We got to find Oscar. And it's like, no, the accountant's in love with the daughter, so they're going to marry him off. And
It gets real
it's
goofy, twisty-turny, and misunderstandings.
And the next thing you know, she's going to be married to Tim Curry's character, and then there's another daughter in play, and it's all over the fucking place. And Snaps is just like pulling all these different directions. He's like, what the fuck? I'm going to kill somebody, literally,
And then
if I wasn't going straight today,
and
if I
then-
wasn't becoming a banker today.
And then Tim Curry looks and says, the accountant was just a red herring,
Nice. Thank
not
you.
a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
That's a throwback to us talking
Yes.
about Clue last time.
Was.
Yes.
Sorry. Anyway. Red herrings, MacGuffins, all that. It's kind of similar.
So, but that's why I went with the Father's Promise, because everything goes back to that. He's like, if it wasn't for the Father's Promise, he would literally be murdering people for everything that they do to him in this movie. But because of that, he's not. He's trying to be a better man, trying to keep doing what he's supposed to be doing, like becoming the banker and stuff like the end. And he's like, you know what? This is too hard. I'm going back to being a
So, yeah,
gangster.
at the very end, it's just like the promise is just like, okay, fuck the promise.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a tough one of whether or not I can consider that a true MacGuffin or not. It's a because it goes into another thing I read about when I was researching this whole thing after you brought this up. Is there's a difference? There is a fine line. There's a difference between a MacGuffin and a plot device, and it feels like in a way, the promise thing is more of a plot device.
Maybe.
Same with Oscar and his existence in the story is kind of, but yeah, I don't know. I can't really decide. Matthew has a perplexed look on his face.
I do, and I know that I'm new to the group, so I don't want to be a dick about it. But you're wrong.
All right.
No,
well,
no.
And mute Matt.
Oh.
all right. You're gone.
No.
I'm just kidding. You're on.
So here's my take on it. I think because the promise was done as a conversation, to me, a MacGuffin is something that just comes in and it purposely like pushes a plot in a different direction. If you have a conversation and a promise is involved, there's communication with that. That is, me being persuaded to do something by my feelings for something else, rather than an object that is just placed here and said, okay, go. At the same time, okay, like with Last Crusade, there's an emotional attachment to the diary. Holy crap, I found my dad's diary. I should go. But it's not like he had a conversation. It was just this
Right.
gut reaction of, here's his thing. I have to go do this. But, if you and I have a conversation and you're dying and you're like, Matt, please take care of my turtle.
Right.
I'm like, that's a dying promise. I have to do that. That's not necessarily like a MacGuffin. The turtle isn't the MacGuffin aspect of it. So I don't know. I think this is one of those that falls to the side of not a MacGuffin in my personal.
More of a plot device.
Yes.
I have a backup MacGuffin.
Okay.
Because I knew you guys weren't going to take it. So my backup MacGuffin is the two bags, because there's a bag full of jewels and there's a bag full of women's undergarments.
Okay.
And through the whole movie, it keeps getting switched. So they think they have one, like he's going to pay off the accountant with the bag full of jewels, and he dumps it all, and it's the bag full of undergarments. And he's like, ah! So he goes and switches back. No, you got to go get back the other bag, because now the maid has the jewels and instead of her undergarments, and it keeps constantly switching back and forth, and the cops are trying to catch him.
That's a
He's like,
MacGuffin.
oh, we
Okay,
got
I'll
him, we
give you
got
that.
him. And
I'll give you that.
And they end up in with the wrong bags.
Now,
so.
granted, the
That I
movie
agree.
itself sounds really cool. It sounds like a good like British farce kind of thing, and I love those kind of movies. So
Right.
the description of the movie I think is really cool, but I don't the bags. I'll give you the bags.
I'll go with
I'll
the
give
bags.
you the bags.
All right, I had a backup plan.
All right.
Give me the
So the
bags.
bags gets the thumbs up,
Yes.
Yes.
but the rest of it,
Wah, wah, wah.
yeah.
I got to talk about Oscar, so I don't care.
That's the only fucking reason. It's like, I'm going to make this work.
I'm
God
going
damn it.
I want to shoehorn this bitch in.
All right, so moving on to my number 4. Mine is kind of a different one that you don't really see people bring up. And again, this is one of those ones where I got excited at first because I thought, like, this is totally a MacGuffin. And then I'm like, I don't know. I can't decide. And it kind of goes to a conversation that we had recently when we were talking about Lord of the Rings and whether the one true ring was a MacGuffin or not, because that's one of the most debatable ones, because there's a bunch of people that say, oh, that's my number one MacGuffin. It's the one true ring. And then there's a bunch of people that are like, it's not a MacGuffin at all. Like it's such a central character to the entire story and everything, you know. It goes back and forth. And with this one, and I apologize because a lot of you people probably might not know this. You guys probably don't know it. But what I'm talking about is a movie from 1965 starring the Beatles known as Help. And it has to do with Ringo getting a ring sent to him. So I'll give you a real quick synopsis. So the movie starts, you see a weird like Middle Eastern cult that are getting ready to perform a human sacrifice. This is a Beatles movie, right? It was a spoof at the time on all the James Bondy type movies that were out. And before they can sacrifice this girl, they realize that she's not wearing the sacrificial ring. She has to wear this sacrificial ring or she cannot be sacrificed to the great god Kaili. And they're going, oh my God, what happened to the ring? Well, the next thing is it cuts to the Beatles performing and doing the song Help. It's the beginning credits and everything. And you see Ringo's got this gigantic, you can see it on the screen there, this gigantic fucking ring on because he's Ringo. He was known for wearing rings. What turns out is that the girl that was supposed to be sacrificed, this Eastern girl was a huge Beatles fan. And so she got the ring in order to be sacrificed. She sent it to Ringo as a gift because she was a fan. She was like a teenage fan and everything. So Ringo's been wearing this ring. Well, the cult finds out that he's got the ring, so they're like, okay, we got to go get this ring back. You know, they keep trying to do all these different things of all these goofy. It's a comedy movie basically, but they tried to do all these goofy things. Like at one point, he's putting his hand into a machine to get a sandwich that he bought out, and they're trying to cut his hand off and everything to get the ring. They're trying to bite it, all this stuff. And it turns out that he can't get the fucking ring off. It won't come off his finger. Even once he finds out what's going on, he's like, well, take the ring. Fuck this ring. He can't get it off his finger. So then the next thing is they go to see some goofy scientists, some British scientists and everything, the mad scientist guys, to see if they can help figure out a way to like shrink his finger or enlarge it or, you know, laser blast it off. And they still can't get it off. So now those mad scientists are like, holy shit, with a ring like that, it's so powerful, and whatever it's made of is like, you know, we could rule the world. So now, in addition to this cult, now these crazy like mad scientist guys are after and trying to kill Ringo and get the band and everything, get it off. Scotland Yard gets involved. The band is like traveling all over the world trying to like hide from these, and like more people keep getting involved in this, trying to get Ringo to get this goddamn ring off his finger. And then I'll give it away because at the very end, like all of a sudden at one point, like there's all this crazy shit's happening. At one point, they don't even really explain it. All of a sudden, the ring just like fucking comes off, and he's just like, and he takes the ring and he sticks it on one of the Indian dudes, and he's like, there you go, asshole, and now you got it or whatever. So now they're chasing him, and you never find out why the ring has any kind of significance, like why it's so strong, why it's powerful. It just starts out of nowhere. It ends up being this plot device thing, but it's not really about the ring. Like the ring doesn't do anything special. It doesn't have magic powers. It just gets stuck on his finger. And then you come to find out that the Eleanor Braun's character, who's supposed to be like the head assassin or whatever, she ends up actually being on the side of the Beatles, because it turns out that she conspired to send that ring and get it away and sent it because the girl that had it was supposed to be sacrificed was her sister. So it was like a way of saving her sister's life from this stupid cult thing and everything. It's a really goofy movie. It's just a real slapsticky, goofy kind of movie. It's got a bunch of great Beatles songs in it. They do. You Got to Hide Your Love Away in there and everything. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip of them playing that. It's like a video, but of them sitting around on the couches playing that song, and that's from the movie and everything. Okay. When Ringo's sitting there looking all sullen playing the tambourine, it's because he's all bummed out because they're trying to kill him, and the chick that's sitting next to him in the pink suit, that's Eleanor Braun's character, the Eastern assassin and everything. It's a goofy movie. I just like I said, it was one of those that popped up in my head, and I was like, I think that might be a MacGuffin.
To me, that is like the ultimate MacGuffin.
Is it? Okay.
That's kind of one of those, it takes off in one direction and then somebody else finds out about it. So they went in on it and it grows and it grows and it grows and it becomes bigger than itself, all because of that one little object.
Right. And then
that's
especially then, like I said, I love at the very end that after all of that, all of a sudden the ring just ends up like coming off.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? After all that.
But to me, that like the MacGuffin should be an inconsequential thing. And the fact that it just pops off, you're like, there you go. All right, cool.
So, okay, good. Yeah. Well, I did all right then, because I really wasn't sure about that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's definitely better than a dying promise. Love you so much.
Oh, man. You had that coming. For those that couldn't see, Megan just made Matt spill his water on himself. All right, so that's our number 4s, right? So we can move on to 3?
On to
Correct.
3.
All right, well then, Matthew.
My number 3 is Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, nice.
And I've loved this movie since I've been a kid. If you've ever seen it, it was like not one of the first, but one of the big moments where cartoons and real life melded together. The plot of it is that there is a toon named Roger Rabbit. He's a cartoon rabbit.
Yeah.
And he has a wife named Jessica Rabbit. I'm assuming everybody knows who Jessica Rabbit is, voiced by Kathleen Turner in her most sultry awesomeness.
Otherwise known from Kathleen Turner Overdrive.
Kathleen Turner Overdrive, yes. One of the best fake band names ever.
Yeah.
But the basic plot of it is that Bob Hoskins plays a character named Eddie Valiant.
Yeah.
And he's a private detective, but his brother was killed by a cartoon character. So he despises all things cartoon.
Drop the safe on him.
And Jessica is having a meeting with Marvin Acme, who is the owner of Toontown, the town where all the cartoons live, and a couple other things. And basically, pictures are taken of the two of them together playing patty cake. And it's literally them playing patty cake, the hand game. But it sounds, the double entendre
in Toon World, playing patty cake is naughty.
Yeah, it's naughty.
Exactly.
But it turns out that the photos were staged. But basically, Roger Rabbit thinks that Jessica is having an affair with Marvin Acme. The next day, Marvin ends up dead. Because of that, Roger is the main suspect.
Hence, who framed Roger Rabbit.
But it turns out that Marvin Acme ends up giving his last will and testament to Jessica. They open up this piece of paper, and it's completely blank. So the rest of the movie is them trying to figure out where the will is, because whoever owns the will owns Toontown. In the meantime, Christopher Lloyd plays the bad guy, Judge Doom, and he is out to just completely kill, destroy, annihilate Roger Rabbit. They go back and forth and back and forth. At the end of the movie, in the big climax, you find out that Judge Doom is actually a cartoon character who is the one that killed Eddie's brother in the first place, but he wants the will because he wants to destroy Toontown and put a freeway to go through it instead, to create new attractions and new things like that, because he
self-loathing Toon.
Because he utterly hates tunes. But you find out at the end of the movie that the will is actually that piece of paper, but the will was written in disappearing ink. So they use the ink, and they find out that Toontown is left to the Toons so that it stays as it should for the rest of perpetuity. But it was one of those movies where, like I said, I just loved the aspect of cartoons in real life coming into play. It was also the first time that, and this is such a little throwaway moment in the whole movie, but Daffy Duck and Donald Duck are playing dueling pianos in the bar.
It's great.
And it was one of the first times that like a Disney character had interacted with a Warner Brothers character.
It's the only time.
Was it the only time?
It's the only time.
And to me, like as a kid, that was such a cool thing that you had these two worlds that I loved, and they're finally interacting together.
It was, and real quick, let me just add in,
please.
It's more than two worlds, because in addition to the fact that you had Disney and you had Warner Brothers characters, you also had Walter Lantz characters, because Droopy's in there as the elevator operator, and that's from Woody Woodpecker. Yeah, that's from Lantz and all that stuff. So to get that in there, that could never happen now. They would never be able to. Yeah,
the way the studios work together to allow those characters to exist in that universe was just really cool.
We haven't seen anything like that happen since then, until they did the whole MCU thing by
With
Sony letting Spider-Man and stuff be in there. That's why it was such a big deal. People don't realize like what all is involved with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was amazing. Anyway, I know that's besides the point.
No. But it's one of the things I loved about the movie too. That like, so we're talking about our favorite movies that contain MacGuffins in them, but I love talking about these movies anyway because the literally every movie that's on my list I love for a different reason. It just happened to have a MacGuffin in it to give me the opportunity to talk about it.
Right. And yeah, and did you explain what the MacGuffin was?
That the will?
The will, yeah.
The will, yes.
We didn't make that clear.
Yes.
Sorry if
Yeah.
I didn't miss that.
So the will, so that everybody is fighting to find the will. Where did it go? What happened to it? At the end, you find out they had it the whole time, but it was just written with the invisible ink.
On Roger's silly, wasn't it on his love letter or whatever?
Yes,
it was
the love letter they wrote to Jessica.
Yeah.
Yes, because at the end of the movie, he goes to read this love letter to Jessica, and I forget what happened. There was some sort of a chemical involved, but the will starts to show up under his love letter. So he starts reading this love letter to Jessica, and it turns into this legalese document.
Right. It's a great movie. So you would have been pretty young when that came out. Yeah, well, young.
It was 89. I was 13.
Okay, so you weren't too young. Did you see it at the theater?
You know what? I don't remember. I want to say I don't think I did. I think it was a home video.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah. I saw it at the theater. It was great seeing it at the theater. It was, especially at the time because there were so many holy shit moments about it as you're watching it, like that part with Daffy and Donald and stuff. You're just like, oh my God. Like, people nowadays won't understand the significance of it because those characters are all so old or whatever, but these are the characters we grew up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you just didn't see those two worlds cross over like that. So to see that, it'd kind of like be going to see a movie now and seeing Pokemon characters fighting like Naruto or something like that for all the younger people out there.
Well, and it was cool too. Like, I'd always remembered like the knock, the shave and the haircut.
Yep.
So that
I still think of that. Yep, I think.
And
of
I'd
that.
never known that it was called shave and a haircut. And because of that movie, like I'm always like shave and a haircut, and people are like, what? No, it's the knock.
Shave and a haircut. 2 bits. Yep.
But yeah, and the idea behind that is that that's how you can flush out a tune in any place. Is
They can't resist it.
They can't resist it. So if you do the shave and a haircut,
they have to follow it.
they have to. Otherwise, it's like this like built up like OCD kind of thing, and that's how they flush Roger Rabbit out at a certain point.
Yep. Nice. I like that. Do you like that movie? Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know why I remember it being R-rated.
It's not R-rated.
It's how I have it in my memory.
At the time, some of it was risque.
It was very risque
kids.
for
it
a
really
cartoon
wasn't
movie.
made to be a kids movie. For people, I was at the time that came out. I was 16. Matt was 13. Like, that's fine.
I'm
But yeah,
only
if
9, so
you were 9 and you would have been, it was a little young.
Yeah.
You were a little young for that. So, but nice. All right, moving on, Megan.
yes,
What is your choice?
I'm afraid.
Are you
even say it?
I don't think I know what it is. I think it's good.
All right. So I went with 2004's National Treasure.
I love it.
And I chose, because I'm sure this is one that has multiple MacGuffins as well.
Real quick, in the chat, Carrie Ann says, saddest movie death, The Shoe and the Dip. I agree with you 1,000%. I still now hate to see that part. I hate when they do that. Yeah. It's
And for an inanimate object, like it's a shoe, you shouldn't feel so bad because not
so
to take
violent.
away
Go
from
for
it,
it.
but there's a dip. There's basically this acid bath thing that's in a steel gallon drum. That's how Judge Doom is killing all the characters. Is you dip them in there and they just acidically.
It's basically ink eraser. Yeah.
It's
So that's how you kill a tune. Is you do, and there's this poor little happy shoe, and he dips it in, and you watch it slowly die. It's crumb.
Yeah,
That's what I said, for like a 9-year-old, it'd probably make you cry.
Yeah.
So
Probably never watched it again.
Yeah,
but also fuck the dip. You know why? You put your hand up on my hip. When I say to dip, you dip. You put your hand up on my hip. When I dip, you dip. We dip. Yeah. Fuck the dip and fuck that song. Fuck the dip too.
Wow. I'm so glad we have the sound effect.
Yeah.
So 2004's National.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's
God.
get into
National
that.
Treasure.
I'm stunned right now. I can't even think properly after that fiasco. So I chose The Secret Lies with Charlotte because it's got this little piece of paper that was given to, Nicolas Cage's grandfather and father and, generations after generations. They've carried this thing trying to figure out what the hell is Charlotte.
Who is Charlotte?
Who it is and what secret could possibly lie with it. So it starts out with, Nicolas Cage, Ben Gates is a little boy. He's up in the attic, and his grandfather comes along and tells him the whole story about it. And then the dad comes up. Who plays it? John Voight.
Yeah.
Plays Patrick Gates. And he's like, this is stupid. It doesn't even exist. Charlotte's a waste of time. You're going to lose your family, your money, your reputation. Just forget Charlotte. It's all make-believe bullshit. And of course,
the idea is that the founding fathers had buried some sort of a treasure somewhere in the nation.
Right.
And somehow Charlotte, whoever she is the key to...
the key to finding the treasure. So the Knight Templars, they hid it to protect it. And Charlotte has a secret. But Charlotte can't be found for hundreds of years or so.
Yeah.
So, but it starts out with that. And, of course, they end up finding who Charlotte is. And then it goes on to the next clue. And the clue after that, as the dad puts it. So it kind of set the whole movie off. Secret lies with Charlotte. And because it started with the younger generations. Back when Ben Franklin?
Yeah,
Who was it? Founding
Benjamin
Fathers?
Franklin Gates. Yeah.
Ben Franklin, the guy that sold all that cheap stuff, the 5 and dime store stuff.
Yeah.
Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin.
So it started with him, and it's gone generation after generation, and it just keeps this little piece of paper just says the secret lies with Charlotte. So that's the MacGuffin I chose.
I think that's awesome.
He's like, you're fucking wrong, but
no, not at all. Because
I'm waiting for it.
I am. I'm going to jump ahead because this was my number 2 choice from my movie. So I want to piggyback off of that. Okay. And the idea is that, as they're looking for the treasure, it turns out that there's a massive clue that's written on the back of the Declaration of Independence. So it becomes, we have to steal the Declaration in order to find the next secret. But the thing about it is, when you find out that Charlotte is not a woman, she's a ship. And that when they get to the ship, there is a pipe that they find that's just another clue. And it takes you on and it takes you on. But Nicolas Cage is partnered with Sean Bean at the time. And things go south at the Charlotte and they go their separate ways.
Yeah.
So Ben Gates decides that he needs to steal the Declaration of Independence to stop Sean Bean from stealing it, because Sean Bean he doesn't care about history. He's going to find the clue, rip up the Declaration, and move on, where Ben Gates has a love for history, so he wants to protect it. But I agree. When I was originally thinking about it, to me, the Declaration of Independence, once they find out that to me was the MacGuffin, is they go for the Declaration, and once they steal it, the movie takes off in all these different directions. But when I was talking to my wife, Carrie Ann, she's like, no. The Charlotte is the MacGuffin. Yeah. That's where everything starts. Yeah, you find this ship, and then it leads them in one direction and Ben Gates in another. So it's a different MacGuffin for different people, and it sends them in those directions. So I do. Originally, I was going to go that it was the Declaration of Independence, but no, you are 100% correct that Charlotte is the main MacGuffin.
More of the plot device after that.
I agree.
So
I think Charlotte and finding that ship is what sets everything
in motion.
So I will. You have totally redeemed Oscar for that, because you actually picked. But you picked Charlotte as the MacGuffin in that, which is the proper choice.
Yeah.
Well done.
And again, just like I gave you props earlier for doing deep digging and picking what I think is the better choice and everything. I agree. Yeah, with that, I think because again, this comes up a lot in a lot of conversations about MacGuffins, and people always say the Declaration of Independence, and I get that. Like, I understand why people say that, and it's not necessarily a wrong choice, but I think that the Secret Lies with Charlotte thing is the more right choice, because that is really what sets the movie off. And Declaration of Independence ends up being it's almost like a mini MacGuffin, a mini Guffin. You know what I mean? Like it works in a similar kind of function, but I don't think that truly sets the characters and the path of these characters and stories off in their various ways the way that Charlotte does. So that's a really good one. Yep.
Yeah, because I don't think it would have been the same if he just was like, oh, here's a Secret Lies of Charlotte, here you go. It's like it was the family heirloom kind of thing, and that's why he felt he needed to seek it.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good one. Good for you to think of that one. All right, can we move on?
Yes.
All right, so moving on, because I know we're...
I like that. Can we move on?
No. I didn't want to cut you off, I feel free to keep going. But I know we've already been going for like an hour.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It goes quick, man.
It really
It's
does.
fun to talk, so hopefully everybody's
No
not getting
wonder
to
my
talk.
ass hurts.
So my number 3 is a movie that I think is unfairly maligned by a lot of people. It's one of those ones, well, it didn't rate well on Metacritic and all that other shit. I just watched this again recently, and I'm like, it's a stupid movie in a sense. It's not an important movie. It's a fun movie. It's a fun. Some of it is definitely a little beyond belief and everything. But for me, it is the movie Sahara.
I really like this movie.
I love this movie.
And I'm talking about, as you can see here on the screen, I am talking about the Confederate Coin. And because this was another one that popped up right away when you brought up the topic to me, because I had just recently watched it. And the Confederate Coin, again, it's one of those things where it doesn't serve any real purpose at all other than to set things in motion. I mean, you find out about this ship that was created in
Iron Ship.
This giant iron, sort of stealthy battleship thing that was created by the Confederate South
Back in the Civil War.
Back in the Civil War, and that the famous thing is that it just somehow in the middle of a battle, it disappeared, never to be seen. It and its inhabitants had never to be seen again. And there was all these rumors about where it could turn up and all this stuff. And Matthew McConaughey and Steve Zahn are these two researcher guys. They're fucking characters, of course. It's Matthew McConaughey and Steve Zahn. I mean, that's
and I'll watch Steve Zahn in anything.
Oh yeah, exactly. Both of them are great, and put them together, it's a great pairing. And you come to find out that they're obsessed with trying to find out what happened to this thing. And they suddenly come to find out that one of the coins that was purportedly owned by the captain of this ship that had been given to him by I forgot who it was that gave it to him, the Confederate general guy, whatever. I don't care about the Confederacy, fuck. But just saying, I'm not real Civil War. I admittedly am not as well versed on as I am the other stuff. But and in any case, they come to find out that this coin has been spotted in Africa. And they're going, there's no way that coin should be in Africa. Mm-hmm. So, there had been some rumors about that maybe the ship had made it out onto the open ocean and gone to another country. And people were saying there's no way that could happen. It would never make it, blah, blah, blah. So the whole thing is that they end up going to this other country to find that. At the same time, they wind up getting wrangled into this whole crazy thing that's going on with this disease, this horrible affliction that's happening to the people there. And you come to find out it's because there's stuff being
poisoned in the water,
poisoning the water illegally by these evil
pile of fucking titians.
Yeah, basically politicians, and stuff involved. And the coin does come up at one point. The coin comes up one or two more times very briefly, kind of. Is just another reason to get to the next point. Mm-hmm. Is well, how are we gonna? Oh, you know what? I gave them that coin, and that was our payment to get to this next thing we needed to. But the coin in and of itself doesn't do anything. It's not a magic coin. It doesn't. It's just such a minor point in the story, really. But without that coin's existence, this story never would have happened.
Taken them.
It ends up not being important ultimately. But without that coin happening, this story never would have gone where it did. They wouldn't have ran into the people they did. They wouldn't have had the connection. Even when he meets with the guy who gives him the coin and find out who he knows and all, it ends up having this major connectivity, importance to it. But the coin in and of itself, once it gets past, it's it doesn't even matter. He doesn't even care about the coin anymore after that, So I thought this was a good MacGuffin for that.
I would agree. I love this movie. I love William H. Macy is in it.
Yes. Oh, he's great in it.
Penelope Cruz is
Right.
is the one that kind of wrangles them into this nefarious organization that's poisoning the water and things like that. But I almost felt like, from a MacGuffin standpoint, I agree 100%. From a movie standpoint, I was bothered by the fact that I almost felt like it was two different movies. Like one of them was treasure hunting to find the coin, to find the iron ship, to find the treasure that is on this iron ship, because it's supposed to be, buckets and buckets of gold. And then they get there, and Penelope Cruz pulls them into this environmental mission where they're trying to figure out who's poisoned the water and what happened. And at the end of it, the two points of that do converge again, but almost coincidentally.
They do. You know what? And I'm glad you brought that up, because it helped me segue into another point I was going to bring up, which was the idea of multiple MacGuffins. Again, my nickname. Because in a way, you could say the iron ship is a MacGuffin as well, because it starts with the whole thing with the iron ship. That's the beginning of the movie, is showing us back in the 1860s with the iron ship happening, and that's the reason why these guys are out there doing what they're doing and trying to find stuff, and that's the reason they go to Africa. That's why they care about the coin in the first place. All that kind of stuff is because of this ship. The ship ends up, and they get signs along the way. They see the painting on the cave wall of the ship and everything that lets them know they're on the right track. And then at the end, they find the ship like purely by accident.
Absolutely by accident.
Just trying to save their own asses. Yeah. And then but ultimately the funny thing about it is, once they get to that point and they find the ship and all that kind of, it's like the ship doesn't really matter anymore. So in a sense, the ship is kind of the MacGuffin when you think about it, because it served only to set them to have
why they're doing what they're doing.
Why
in the
they're
first
even
place.
doing what they're doing, but the ship had no importance at all.
No, none.
And I could see why that would bother you, because it ends up being so that the whole Penelope Cruz side of the story and all this. All this chemical warfare thing that's going on in the water and all that ends up being like the main crux of the story, where it's like, and that's probably why a lot of people, I think, did get a little bummed, because the best parts about the movie are the treasure hunting, that whole part of it is the best part of it.
Always.
Getting into the other stuff, I understand why they had it there, but you just found yourself like not caring as much about that as much as you were like, man, I just want to see them ski more broken airplanes across the desert floors, trying to find more treasures and all that stuff. Because, even when they find the ship, you think it's going to be for McConaughey and Zahn. You think it's going to be this oh my God, we found the ship. And it's not. They're just like, get in the ship. We're getting shot at. We're just going to blow the damn thing up. And it's just like, what? After all that, that they kind of render it sort of like, oh, well, we realize it's not that important, actually. It's like, dude. That's kind of a bummer. Yeah, I've never.
Was that you, McConaughey, by the way?
It was just my southern whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I could work harder on the McConaughey. Like, well, I say this ship is out in the middle of the desert and somewhere in Africa. It'd be pretty cool if it was.
That was much better. I appreciate you. Thank you for giving that a second.
That.
Yeah, that was very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, but anyway, my point is I could see that. So, to me, they kind of, again, I think they both work. The coin, like I said, I felt was like maybe the more obvious one, because I
like the ship.
But the ship, now that I think about it, is maybe the bigger MacGuffin. The big guffin.
I think I still agree with the coin. I mean, because the ship, obviously at some point in, during Civil War, so 1800s, mid 1800s, this ship ends up in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Right.
And it ends up there because there was a river at one point that dried up. The dunes shifted over. It buried the ship.
Right.
But it wasn't until that coin was found 150 years later that then suddenly the adventure begins. So
and the coin is less important.
I still stick that it's the coin that takes them on the adventure to find it.
Fair enough. Okay, cool. All right.
Wanted to disagree with me.
Is that all the threes then? Are we on to two?
We are.
I think we are.
Wow.
We are. And
right.
I already discussed my two because it overlapped with Megan's three. So I'm going to bypass that and hand it right back to the lovely Megan Guess.
Okay,
That's
Megan.
right, you are.
God damn right you are.
All right. So I went with another movie I've been wanting to talk about forever. And it's 2004's Without a Paddle.
Okay.
With Seth Green, Dex Shepard, Matthew Lillard?
Lillard, yeah. Lillard.
And Burt Reynolds.
No, gotta get a Burt Reynolds.
Gotta get a Burt Reynolds, yeah. So, Seth Green, Dax, and Matthew, they're all childhood friends. They end up coming back together because their fourth person dies in an accident. Okay. So they go to his funeral, end up going to their old childhood tree house, and they're going like, oh, look at all this cool stuff. And there's a lot of cool 80s stuff in there. And they end up finding, their old flag that they made themselves. And underneath that is a little chest that they wrote on there, D.B. Cooper's treasure chest. So I made that my MacGuffin. It's just overall this chest. But inside of it has a C-3PO. He's like, give me that. That's worth a lot of money now. So I was like, that's Larry. But
it's not worth that much, actually, but I would still want it, yeah.
Anyway. But inside here was a little Indiana Jones toy compass.
Oh, cool.
That was the friend that died's compass.
Right.
But in here, they also find where, this friend has been working on trying to find D.B. Cooper's treasure.
Okay.
And where he's at. And he wanted them to go on this adventure to find it. So they're like, you know what? Let's drop everything, do it. And of course, one was like, I can't. I got responsibilities. And the other one's like, I can't. I don't want to do anything responsible. And the other one's, fuck it. Let's go do it. So they ended up going and do it. And total hell breaks loose. They get chased by pot growers and kidnapped by, yeah.
They chased them really slowly. They were just hungry.
They were just, yeah. Well, the dogs end up high and because they burned the whole crop. The whole fucking crop's gone.
Wow.
I was like, oh, good. There's still some left. And oh, shit, fuck. Okay. Anyway, and they get kidnapped by Burt Reynolds and like, oh my God, don't rape us. And he's like, I'm just a mountain man. I'm okay. But it's like this whole tantric tree sex thing going on. And
you know what this is reminding me of? You know the part in the Muppet movie when they're going back and they're recapping for the audience and Dr. Teeth is reading the script and he's giving them that really like cut up version of the script and everything. They don't look like Presbyterians to me and all that stuff. And it gets into the whole thing and it's like it didn't help the audience understand where they were at all. That's what this is.
Yep, that's what I'm doing here. Yeah, I'm all over the place. It's just a silly, crazy movie. But the whole time they like have these pieces from this treasure chest they somehow took with them and somehow like go over waterfalls and with rapids and wrecking their canoes. They still have all these little pieces somehow.
But these pieces don't have any real like importance.
They really don't. Because like, how's this toy compass really going to get you anywhere? Those things aren't accurate. But
and C-3PO, come on, he was like one of the most common of the original fucking 12-back Star Wars figures. I mean, you could still find those loose like at any toy show or yard sale for like under $10.
I want to talk more about the tantric tree sex. Like what? Is it sex with trees or is it tantric
wasn't
sex?
Wasn't that the name?
In trees.
Wasn't that the name of your alt rock band in the 90s?
Tantric tree sex. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, they're like hairy hippie women and
Speaking of the 90s?
In a rainstorm is very tantric, they said. So.
Oh, that's funny.
With the swaying of the tree.
So I'm familiar with the movie. I've seen the poster, multiple times back in the Blockbuster, in the days when we used to go in there. How did it end? Did they find treasure? Was the treasure inside them the whole time?
They did find D.B. Cooper, and Burt Reynolds plays D.B. Cooper's partner.
Oh.
And that's why he's been on the mountain. He's been up there all these decades trying to find his partner. And they stumble, literally stumble and find D.B. Cooper where he fell down a hole and he broke his leg or something. And he ended up burning his money to stay warm to try to save himself, but ultimately died. But he did not burn his partner's money. So they ended up giving the money to Dell, the partner, to go start his life finally.
If only they would have just realized that D.B. Cooper was actually Loki the whole time.
Seriously, right?
Yeah. You'd know better.
Yeah, who knew?
So what you're saying is this little kid's faux D.B. Cooper locker and its contents, you're saying is the MacGuffin.
Yes.
The Phobo Cooper.
Yeah.
Bobo Cooper. Yeah.
The Phobo Cooper. The Foguffins.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say without seeing the movie and everything, but it sounds like that could fit, you know?
Because at the end, when they find DB Cooper, they end up tossing these trinkets from the chest onto DB Cooper, and they leave it there because they've completed their mission now.
Nice.
So
See, I think this is a full-on MacGuffin movie.
Okay.
I mean, because the plot doesn't start until he passes away. It's not him passing away. It's not an interaction with him as an individual.
Right.
They find the
It's the
treasure
trinket.
chest,
Finding the trinkets that sets
and decide
them on the
to
path.
kind of, yeah, I'm cool with that.
And then at the very end, they find One-Eyed Willie, and they each throw their individual things on him. And
throw them on him and
this is
literal
mine.
over
I'm
him.
taking this one back.
Yeah.
This is my wish.
Hey, you guys. Okay. But no, I think that works for me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So it was a genuine MacGuffin, and it's a movie you wanted to talk about for a while.
Yeah, it is.
Win-win.
Win-win.
you go.
Sweet.
It's like I'm shoehorning some of these in here. God damn it, they're gonna fit.
I think that works. And I like the fact that we're bringing up, I mean, if we were just bringing up all the same ones that every other podcast and article is already bringing up, then it's fucking
Why are we doing
boring.
this?
Exactly.
What's the point?
Exactly. All right. On that note, I am going to bring up one that is brought up in a lot of articles and is considered another one of like the classic MacGuffins, and that's from a movie from the early 60s. But again, when I realized, oh yeah, that is a MacGuffin, and I realized that, I got really excited because I've always wanted to talk about this movie because it's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Oscar, isn't it?
No, it's not. It is not Oscar.
Damn it, Matt.
From now on, that's what we're going to call. From now
shit.
on, just like MacGuffins, they've got this term. From now on Geeking Poetic podcast, when somebody brings up something that's like, no, that's totally like doesn't fit at all what we're talking about, we're going to call it an Oscar.
It's an Oscar. It's an Oscar.
Meg, are you pulling an Oscar? She's not happy about
You can both go to hell.
Well, in any case,
What the fuck are we talking about?
it's one of my favorite movies. Is my number 2 choice. It's from the early 60s. I want to say it's from 1960, 61, somewhere around there. And I'm talking about the Golden Fleece from Jason and the Argonauts. There's the fleece right there. I thought I'd put the actual fleece so people know what I'm talking about instead of just the movie poster. Jason and the Argonauts. It's one of those Greek mythology movies and stuff. It's got all the awesome stop motion stuff in there, which I grew up with.
Yeah, what was his name?
Oh, Ray Harryhausen.
Harryhausen. Thank you.
I was gonna say Jason.
No, Jason. That's the guy. The Argonaut. Come on.
Your brother's going to make his own version of it and call it Jason and the Meganauts.
Probably.
Be attacked by a bunch of Megs with swords and stuff like that.
That's what he's gonna get at Christmas when he fucks with me again.
Yeah, it's totally going to happen, Jason. So if you're watching or listening to this, beware.
I like inside jokes.
Yeah, well, it comes up all the time on
Does
the
it?
show.
Yeah.
Her and her brother and their travails and her kicking the burger over the couch and all that kind of stuff. And certain things that have just not been let go of for 30 years.
I'll fit you in later.
Okay. Thank you.
You'll learn, Matt. You will learn. We'll get you up to speed. But in any case, Jason and the Argonauts, it's a movie about, God, how do I even explain it? Well, it's about a young man named Jason. He was a baby that was born to the original, the king that had been struck down by his usurper. They had hidden the child, Jason, away from the usurper guy. Oh, the gear. Hey, what's going on, dude? Welcome to the chat. And he had been hidden away for all these years. It had been prophesized that this child was going to take back the land and rid the land of this evil usurper and all this stuff. Once Jason gets older, the new evil king guy realizes that Jason is who he is. Jason doesn't know that he doesn't quite understand what he's dealing with, doesn't realize that the king is what he is at first. And what ends up happening is he gets sent on this mission to go find from way, way far away. Apparently, back in those days, it was probably like 200 miles away or something like that. It's like, it's going to take you half a lifetime. It's like, bro, it's like going from here to Milwaukee. But it was ancient Greece, so, fair enough. But anyway, he gets sent on a mission to go get this golden fleece. And the whole thing is that the king guy, that the evil bastard that sends him on this mission to do this, is like, well, it's kind of a win-win for me. If Jason gets the golden fleece and brings it back to me, then I'll be super powerful, because reportedly, the legend has it that this golden fleece brings the king and whichever king has it in their land, like all this prosperity, a lot like Excalibur and everything. And if he doesn't come back with the fleece, it's going to be
problem solved.
Well, he's going to be because he got killed along the way, which is great, because I just want Jason to be fucking dead and out of my way and not a problem.
He can't kill him himself, right?
Yeah, there's like a whole thing with that. There's, again, there's always something with this Greek mythology stuff of, Achilles and Odysseus and people that can't be killed for whatever reason. Anyway, so Jason ends up putting together this like really cool team they call the Argonauts, because the ship is the Argo that gets built. And the Argonauts are made up of all these different guys that have like different skills. One of them is Hercules, actually, another famous character. Hercules is on there. I can't remember the names of these other guys. I've seen this movie 5 billion times too. But in any case, they go, and the whole movie is about them trying to get to this foreign land to get this golden fleece to bring back and everything. And along the way, Jason not only figures out like what he's been bamboozled into and all this stuff, and realizes like, well, okay, once I get that golden fleece, I'm keeping it and I'm going to take over, I'm going to go kill that bastard, and take the land back. But in the meantime, they come across all these obstacles. They at one point they land on an island where they have to fight a Titan. Is it Thanos? Is it Thanos? I can't remember.
Thanos.
This Talos, yeah,
Talos or something like that.
Talos, maybe. I'm thinking of Marvel. Talos, yeah, the giant statue guy that comes to life, and at one point they have to fight these harpies, and they're just all the dead skeleton guys. That's the famous scene everybody remembers, is the skeleton guys with the stop motion guys with the swords and everything. It's great. I mean, it's very early 60s. Most kids now would look at it and go, what is this? I think it's great. But the thing about it is the golden fleece is like the driving thing that finally gives the story a purpose. It causes the Argonauts to come into existence and the ship to be built and Jason to have a purpose and what it means for the different people involved and stuff. And then of course there's the whole thing when he gets to the land and he comes to get this fleece, then the people at the land are like, wait, you're going to take our fleece from us? Then what's going to happen to us, And the funny thing about it is the fleece in and of itself, again, fucking look at it. It's just this fleece.
Like a golden cow.
Yeah, it's essentially what it is. But you never really find out, like, well, what the fuck does this thing even do and why and what's the point and everything. But it's just this thing that everybody covets and needs to have and all this. And you don't really see the fleece until like the very, very end of the movie almost and stuff. Of course, Jason gets the goddamn fleece after all sorts of travails and stuff. But I feel like, like I said, the fleece is what drives the movie. It's what they're after. It's why, all these different people have different motivations about what they do if they got it, and who, the evil king wants it, Jason wants it, blah, 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 blah. But the fleece doesn't exist through the whole movie until the very end. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like it's a prime MacGuffin. I don't see it. It doesn't do anything really. I mean, they believe it does. They believe that whoever has it then, has supreme power of, to be the promised land kind of thing. But it's just this fucking artifact. It's just this thing. So that's my MacGuffin for number 2.
All right.
Matt's like, I don't care. Let's move on.
No, I care. I care deeply. I care deeply.
There you are.
All right.
You're twisting again.
I am. It's been a while since I've seen this one, and I remember being on like WPWR 50
Yep.
on like a Saturday afternoon, and I remember like catching bits and pieces of it like in between going out to play and things like that. And I always loved that stop motion aspect of things. I mean, it was so kind of cool to see that, as an early 80s kid, it was a quintessential like 60s kind of a Lost in Space-ish kind of thing. The fleece itself for it to become Jason's adventure. I mean, that puts him on that adventure. I guess my question to you is, is that something that comes to Jason and he decides I must go get that, or was that an assignment that was given to him because this object exists? And if it was assigned to him because it exists, it falls just slightly to me outside the realm of what a MacGuffin should be, because it's kind of a thing that just pops up and changes the path of who you are.
Yeah, but I to me, I feel like that I don't think it matters whether he wanted to go find the fleece or whether somebody else wanted to send him on the fleece. I think either way, it becomes his purpose. You know what I mean? Like prior to that, his purpose was, well, all he knew was that, you know, I've got to avenge my family's death and everything, and I've got to overthrow this king. I don't even know, you know, and he's been in seclusion and raised like out in like the boonies and stuff. So he's like, you know, he doesn't even know what the king looks like. He's just literally like wandering into town finally one day when he's old enough, being like, okay, I gotta go do this. I'm a man now, so that's my, you know, that's what's been prophesized or whatever. I gotta go avenge my family. He doesn't. That's why at first the king is able to bamboozle him, because he doesn't even realize he's talking to the dude he wants to kill. Like, he has no idea.
Yeah, the king's basically trying to buy himself time.
Yeah, more or less, right. And that's what I'm saying. So he kind of gets sent on this mission. It becomes a mission, but it ends up becoming like, and then as throughout the movie, like at first, even these Argonauts are sort of like, at first they're sort of like, just sort of like along for the ride. Mm-hmm. Like, well, if you pay us and we'll go, you know, and everything, like, cool, we'll go, we'll help you out. You seem like a good dude kind of thing. But then it becomes, as the time goes on and everything, it becomes like, no, you know, we've lost so much along the way. We've been doing this for months and blah, blah, blah. Like, it becomes everybody's mission, you know, to get this goddamn fleece. And I think half of them, more of them, they don't even know what it's going to do. You know what I mean? They just know that this is what we're supposed to do. And different things that happen end up sending characters on different points. At one point, Hercules leaves the story, and you find out he's got to go off on his other adventure and stuff. Like, their paths don't intersect anymore. And it's all because of the events all set about because of this fucking mission to go get this golden fleece that they don't even know if it actually exists. It's just rumored throughout the world, you know, that this thing exists and what it'll bring you and all this kind of stuff. So, and like Alex said there, I think, I mean, it's considered a MacGuffin. A lot of people, like scholars and stuff, because this is an old story going back centuries and centuries. It's considered like one of the oldest MacGuffins around. Like, you can't even call it a movie MacGuffin. It's just like a story MacGuffin, you know, and everything. So,
I mean, to me, in a loose not loose translation, but in a loose interpretation, I guess if you want to call a MacGuffin an object that pushes the story along, yes, it is 100% a MacGuffin. I tend to, for the stories that I like, are the MacGuffin that just kind of falls into a lap rather than, and not to say that this is not a MacGuffin. For the ones that I enjoy, it's a slightly different variation of that.
Seeking it out
yes.
is more kind of the thing.
Yeah, there's more of a purpose. There's more of a purpose to that MacGuffin rather than...
Which is why you feel that the coin from Sahara is more a MacGuffin than the ship, because the ship is their purpose. They were seeking that out, but the coin was the MacGuffin that fell into their lap.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that falls into slightly different individual parameters for what a MacGuffin is and everything.
And that's the beauty of a conversation like this, is that there may be right or wrong, but I mean, you
like
know,
Oscar.
I'm going to Oscar. I mean, that was total wrong. I mean, that was just, there's nothing.
And
there.
Hey, you redeemed it with the whole laundry bag thing, because that was a total MacGuffin.
Yeah.
So
you should have started with that.
This is great because I know that he's going to get hit next.
We're just gonna, like,
see, I feel like I'm here to
both
take
gonna
some of the
get the
pressure
elbow.
off of you is what's going on.
This is fabulous.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Here's an interesting bit I want to read that he says in the chat. He says, there's a train of thought in the history buff world that the Golden Fleece inspired the legends of the Holy Grail. So it was like
interesting.
an influential MacGuffin at that. So, yeah.
That's cool.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, in the broad scope of it, it is an object that pushes a plot along. So yes, as far as MacGuffin goes, the fleece is...
And the object
definitely
is not that important. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's important, but it's not it's not something that actively does stuff throughout the movie. It's just this thing that gets brought up in the beginning, and then we don't even see the damn thing until the very end, briefly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works. You know, it works, but yeah, it's interesting. It's fun to debate it anyway. I love the fact that you're like debating what is considered to be like one of the most legendary MacGuffins of all time. Matt's like, you know what? You're all fucking wrong. Centuries of you.
You sons of bitches.
But no, I think your points you made about that were really good. I think it's an interesting...
For your parameters that you follow
and
that you consider MacGuffin, it doesn't quite fit.
It is interesting food.
But it's also interesting, like, and I'm assuming you guys have done, the same thing since we started talking about the MacGuffins, is looking at different sites and different opinions and there are myriads of them of what people consider them to be. I mean, for other people, it could be a person, because a person is an object that pushes that along. I mean, the argument could be made for that. They would be wrong, but it could be made.
I thought I had them there for a second.
All right, well, we are on our number ones now.
Is it time for number one already?
Yep, it is time for that. And Matthew, you get to talk about your...
And you guys can vehemently disagree if you'd like to, because that's the point of a discussion. You won't, though, because I'm right.
Wow.
I was going to say, I don't think you're wrong on this one.
No. So my number one MacGuffin is the Necronomicon from the Evil Dead trilogy. And there's so many funny things about this, the Sam Raimi Evil Dead trilogy in general. I hate horror movies. I hate gore. I hate blood. I hate jump scares. Like
I probably like them maybe a little more than you do, but I'm not far behind. No. I'm very, 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 very picky about my horror movies.
I hate just about everything about horror movies, but I love some Bruce Campbell.
Okay, fair enough.
My introduction to the Evil Dead trilogy was Army of Darkness, which is not horror at all. There's a lot of stop motion. There's a lot of the Harryhausen stuff that's in there with some of the fighting in there. There's a lot of great one-liners. I mean, most of the dialogue became what was Duke Nukem and the video game dialogue that happened with that. But the idea with the Necronomicon, so in the original Evil Dead movie, there's these group of teenagers who go out to the middle of the woods to stay in this abandoned cabin. And as they're out there, they find this Book of the Dead. It's a book that is bound in human flesh, and there's a recording that goes with it that talks about how all of the evil is encapsulated if you read some of the chapters in this book out loud. And because they're stupid teenagers, they do, because they don't believe it's real. And they unleash all of these demons onto the world. And the rest of the movie is them fighting these demons off that they brought out because of this specific book.
Right.
The second movie is pretty much a rehash of the first with some minor
with
characters.
A bunch of crazy shit thrown in.
Yeah, but I mean, it's essentially it's the same movie. And then you've got Army of Darkness, which takes Ash Williams, the main character, and thrusts him into medieval times where he has to fight these demons there. And then it's, Ash versus Evil Dead, the Stars series that, came after it. That's still the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead is still that big part of it.
Right.
But one of the reasons that I love this movie so much is, like I said, when I first discovered Army of Darkness in high school, there were so many great one-liners, and Bruce Campbell was just kind of the man's man, but he also gets his ass handed to him and taken down a peg or two. And it was this great combination of total masculinity with vulnerability in it as well, and that bravado that came with it. My youngest son is actually named Ash, and he's named Ash after Ash Williams from the Evil Dead movies. Yes, that's where it came from.
I didn't know that's where you got it from.
Yeah, that's totally where I got it from.
That's funny.
But again, I'm not a horror movie fan, but there's just something about the way that these movies are done. They started out to try and be this like horror movie with the first one, and the second one became a spoof of the first one, and then Army of Darkness took it in this completely other direction. But yeah, the Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, nothing else happens until they read from that. So it all these crazy adventures stem from that one particular book.
Yeah. I think I really can't debate that one. I mean, that seems like that's...
Very obvious one.
Yeah, very obvious. Not in a bad way. I agree. I like, real quick as a side note, because getting back to what we were just talking about a few minutes ago, I like in the chat, it says, one movie that has both types of MacGuffins, A Christmas Story. The sought-out MacGuffin is the Daisy Red Ryder rifle, and the fell into the lap MacGuffin would be the lamp.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Because then, I think that's fair.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a really good example, like the Red Ryder rifle. I mean, that drives him. That is what that is. I mean, that MacGuffin. It's a MacGuffin with a point.
Right.
And I think there's, to me, the MacGuffin with the point is cool. The leg lamp falls into his lap, and there's no real point to it other than it's this totally gaudy lamp that the wife, the mother, hates, and she accidentally destroys. And
then it ends up, but it ends up driving the story with things that happen and why, and absolutely.
Yeah,
that's a great suggestion.
Good one there, Colin. Good one.
But as far as the Necronomicon, I think that's a good number one. Man, I like that one. When I saw you wrote that down, I was like, fuck, I didn't even think of that one, but that's exactly right. Now, have you ever seen the Evil Dead movies?
Oh, yeah, a long time ago.
She seems thrilled about it. She's
Again, it's more of who I saw with, not the movie itself. So.
Association, negative association.
Well, and to me, it was the opposite. Like, I was in high school, and like there's a time and a place, and it just kind of fit perfectly with that discovery of this other world of things. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree. Oh yeah, people are. We'll get to some of these. People are bringing up some good.
There's this love face again. God damn it!
I don't know,
lost.
but they want to tell us about online strips without.
I know.
clothing.
I know.
He keeps deleting them. Like, get out of here.
I keep trying to get rid of them and everything, but
I think Colin reported them earlier. So
yeah. Let's see if I can
beat it.
Do this.
God, yeah,
Megan, what's your number one?
Well, maybe we want to know about online strips without clothing. I like online strips without clothing.
Yeah.
Like what kind of strips? Like comic
online
strips?
strips?
Is it like Marmaduke naked?
We just shave them.
Clifford the Big Red Dong.
Sorry for those people that are listening. If you're listening to this on Podbean or something like that, it's because somebody keeps jumping into our live chat with this bot thing or something. So, but it's entertaining nonetheless. So, yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a big horror movie fan. The horror that I really like, and there's even some stuff that's can be pretty grim, pretty gruesome that I do like, but it's minimal, and there has to be something more to the movie than that.
Like Cabin in the Woods was
Never saw it.
Oh my gosh! So
Never saw it.
There's a lot of Evil Dead in that particular movie, and it's the thing that's great about Cabin in the Woods. It's a send up of all the other horror movies, and I like when there is a little bit of that self-referential portion in there, or it doesn't take itself too seriously, or it's humor interjected with that kind of helps offset that for me. But horror for the sake of horror. I've never seen Friday the 13th movies. I've never seen Halloween's. I've never seen
some of those are actually
Nightmare
quite
on
good.
Elm Street. I've never I can't. It's just
I like some of those. I like some of them. Some of them are done very well and very good stories and all that kind of stuff. But 99% of horror that's out there, I'm like, I could do without it. I'm not.
I agree.
Fan. So, or at least we're in it. Big Red Dong, new MacGuffin that Colin says.
Oh, that's going to be our next band.
Wow.
Remind me not to come see you guys.
Welcome everybody to Bulldog Brewing. We are Big Red Dong. Oh God. Okay. Anyway, so moving on. Megan, what is your number one?
All right. Well, I'm a chick, so I had to at least throw in one chick flick in here. So I went with 2008's Fool's Gold.
Okay.
With Matthew McConaughey and Kate Hudson, Donald Sutherland, Kevin Hart's in this one too.
You like the Kevin Hart movies.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah, I really do.
He's funny.
He is funny. So he plays Big Bunny, so he's like he's the bad guy in it. But it starts out Matthew McConaughey and his other helper are diving, and you don't know what they're diving for, but they end up somehow sinking their ship while they're underwater, and it like blows up all this sand at them and everything. And in that is a fragment of a plate. And when they get to the top side, he's like, what is this? And he looks at it, he's like, oh my God, it has the royal family crest on the back of this thing. This is what we're looking for. Because they're looking for a sunken ship with treasure on it. He's like, oh my God, it's here. We finally found it. Well, he's got basically Big Bunny comes along, or his henchman, and leave him out for dead. But meanwhile, he's got to hurry up and get back to Tess, his wife, Kate Hudson, because she's about to divorce him. He's like, if he's not there, then she gets everything. And he doesn't want the divorce anyway. So he's got to somehow straight in the middle of the ocean, and a random boat ends up getting him. But he tries to convince her, I found it. I know where the boat's at we can get our treasure finally. She's like, I've wasted 10 years of my life with this bullshit. I'm done with you. You're such a liar. I'm done.
Sounds about right.
So, but she's taken up being like a stewardess or something on a yacht. It's down in Sutherland's yacht. And they're like, we got to get out of here, because the second that my husband, Finn is his name, sees this yacht, he's going to come up here and he's going to try to bamboozle you to go do this. Of course, she can't tell him that for some reason. But she's online looking, and she's like, oh, he's so full of shit. And turns out she sees like this picture, and it has this little teeny tiny in the background of it, this plate. And it matches the same design that he drew her. She's like, oh shit, he found it. He really did find it. So next thing you know, he ends up on the boat, the yacht, of course, and they get together like, it's there. We can go find it and stuff like that. So they convince Nigel, the rich guy, to go on this adventure and find this treasure because of this plate. So the plate is my MacGuffin.
Okay.
Because it doesn't serve any real purpose other than as supposed proof.
So it's like the
boat,
coin.
Yeah, the boat's not even there. It's in a different area that they have to find it. But that's what makes them all go on this adventure, is realizing, yes, it is there. It's not just made believe. This boat really does.
So no, go ahead. I'm
This
sorry.
boat really does exist, and there is treasure to it. So
It's just funny. Just say it's like all McConaughey MacGuffins just all kind of serve like the same purpose. It's like in this movie, I'm trying to find a boat, and I found this. I got this coin. In this other movie, I'm trying to find a boat, and I got this plate. And they're both pretty much the same thing, but don't worry about that. Forget about it. We'll worry about that later. So. No, I mean, it's fine. I can't argue with it because it's pretty much the same fucking thing as mine.
I was
It's just
having a hard
plate.
time trying not to make all mine treasure hunts.
But
Because you know
You're
me, I love my
such a-
treasure
but
hunt.
that's
well,
your
I love a
thing.
good treasure hunt movie, and I think
your thing.
like treasure hunts are all about the MacGuffins. Like
Seriously.
that's
Right.
it's easy to pick those. I mean, on mine, Last Crusade, like, it's treasure hunt.
Right.
It's national treasure, obviously treasure hunt. Yeah, I agree. I think I think it's.
I've never seen this movie.
I think I hadn't seen it either.
I would like to see
I'd
it.
like to check.
It's
it
a
out.
chick
I'd
flick,
like to
so
check
but
this one out.
I really
I
like
like
it.
Hudson,
It's funny.
Donald
Sutherland.
all right.
Right.
Kevin Hart's pretty funny, most of the time.
Yeah, it's got
We're just gonna talk like that now.
Jesus Christ.
All of us are gonna be talking like that by the end.
Yeah.
Hey, you got any honorable mentions there?
Yeah, but then like my McConaughey turns into like Bob Dylan, and then like suddenly I'm Reagan. I'm like, well.
You know, Bonzo. Yeah. Oh man.
No, this is a solid choice. I haven't seen this one either, but I mean the explanation of it did much more justice than like say Oscar. So I mean you did well with this.
He's not gonna let that die, is he?
No, he's got he's got to have something that we can poke at you about.
Poke, 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 poke.
Yep. It's going to turn into just like a full-on poke brawl by the end. Pokey brawl.
Boogie Brawl.
Megan, I choose you.
I choose.
Oh, God.
If you pause, you can see the moment where this heart breaks.
That's the best part is the sound in The Simpsons when Ralph Wiggum's heart breaks and there's frame by frame and he's like, that little sound. Poor Ralph Wiggum. He bent his Wookiee.
He bent his
All right, tangents here. No, that sounds and now I want to see this movie because again, it's in that same vein of a Sahara type movie in a way and everything. So
See, and to me,
that's up my alley.
outside of the plot of the movie, when I had first heard about this, I thought it was like the regular, like McConaughey's, like what's the one with Sarah Jessica Parker, or Failure to Launch, or something like that. It seemed like it was one of those like romantic-y. I didn't know that there was any aspect of like treasure hunt heist kind of thing to it, and now I'm much more intrigued by it.
Right, that's cool.
So I think great MacGuffin, but you've also given me another film that I want to check out in my free time. So I think
I bet you and Carrie Ann will like this.
Before we move on, somebody brought up in the chat, I think Colin brought up in the chat, said, I learned today what a MacGuffin is. Would the Iron Throne in Game of Thrones be considered a MacGuffin?
in the broad definition, it is an object that pushes the plot along. People are fighting and doing something with the purpose of attaining that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's motivating them to do something. So in the broad scope, I would say in the same way the Golden Fleece is a MacGuffin. It kind of fits into that category.
Fair enough. I think I can agree with that at the very least. That I think it's worthy of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know enough about Game of Thrones to get into it, unfortunately. I only ever saw the first 2 seasons and then I stopped.
That's really where after that.
Yeah. I know there was the Red Wedding in the 3rd season and all that. I know about it, but I never really thoroughly read it, and I didn't watch all the seasons. And then I heard the way
obviously he who sits on the throne rules it all. So if you're going to apply that same logic for the Fleece of Jason and the Argonauts, if he who has it rules it.
Yeah.
You know,
that makes sense.
The One Ring. I mean, it is. Yes, it's a motivational object to push a plot along. So yes, I will reluctantly say that the Iron Throne is a MacGuffin.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so then with just one left, right? Just mine. All right. So my number 1. This was the one that it didn't come to me immediately, but when it did, I said, "Yep, that's it." Not only did I know it was being included, but I knew that it was my number 1 choice. It's a movie that, again, I realize a lot of people out there probably may not have seen because it's a little bit of a sleeper film. And
literally.
Why? Oh yeah, because he goes, yeah, that's Megan with the puns as usual. Always count on you for that. It's a movie from 1980 that stars Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour, and it is called Somewhere in Time.
Ooh.
Have you seen this movie?
It's been a long time.
Yeah. About as long as
Somewhere in Time.
In Somewhere in Time, yeah. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Easily. I don't remember where I ranked it when we did our favorite movies of all time.
It was up there.
It was way up there. It was probably in my top 5. I'm a big Christopher Reeve fan. I'm a big Jane Seymour fan. I'm a big time travel fan. I love time travel-y stuff. And I love this movie because it's a different, somebody didn't build a contraption. It's not something you put on your wrist or some machine you get into. It's all about the idea of being able to time travel by like self-hypnosis, and actually it's almost like astral traveling in a sense when you think about it that way. But what the MacGuffin is in this movie is, and I'll explain. I can start it out at the beginning of the movie. The movie starts out in 1974. Christopher Reeve is a college student, and he's an aspiring playwright. And he puts on his first play at a college up in Michigan called Too Much Spring, I think it was supposed to be called. And it's not important. I've just seen this movie like 5,000 times. But anyway, when he's at this premiere of this play and everything, he's talking to his friends and everything, and he says, "I just talked to an agent who says they think that my play might be ready for like Broadway, might be able to go out there," and they're all congratulating him. And all of a sudden, a little old lady walks up to him that he's never seen before, and she hands him a pocket watch, an old-timey pocket watch with the chain and everything, and she hands it to him and says, "Come back to me." And then she just walks away, and everybody's going, "Who the hell was that?" And then he goes, "I've never seen her before in my life." And then he opens up this watch, and wow, this is a really cool watch. It's, he gets a feeling that there's something odd and special about this, but whatever. So now you fast forward 6 years. He's an accomplished playwright and everything. He's very successful. Now he lives on the Gold Coast in Chicago. He lives up there, on Lakeshore Drive and everything. And he's going through a tough time in his life. He's got writer's block. He and his girlfriend just broke up. And he just kind of on a whim decides, I need to get out of here. He jumps in a car. He drives a few hours or so up to Michigan, just kind of aimlessly driving, sort of seeking himself, and he comes across the Grand Hotel and just says, okay, this seems nice, I'll stop here. He goes to the Grand Hotel, and there's weird little coincidental things that start happening. He hasn't been up there since he put on that play back when he was in school, when the little old lady gave him the watch. And these like weird coincidental things start happening. He runs into the bellhop, this kindly old bellhop guy, and he's talking to the bellhop and says, "See you around, Arthur." And the bellhop's going, "Do I know you? I feel like I know you." And Chris is going, I've never met you before. All these little things start happening, and then he ends up going into, I'm trying to make this as brief as I can. He ends up going into the hotel, and he's still kind of restless and down and, dealing with this breakup and all this. And he goes into a little like room of memories thing that this hotel has, because the hotel's been there for 100 years. And he sees a portrait, an old-time photo on the wall of Jane Seymour's character. And inexplicably, he doesn't know who she is, doesn't know when that picture was even taken, but he just becomes completely infatuated with this. Starts doing a bunch of research, starts asking around, goes to the library, starts spending hours looking through stuff to find out who it is. He comes to find out it's Elise McKenna, who was a stage actress back in the early 1900s, which at first he's like, oh, fuck, okay. She's long gone, and everything. But he's still obsessed with it. Like, he's got to know more about her. And then he comes across a photo of her in a magazine or something that was the last photo ever taken, and comes to find out it's the old lady that gave him the watch. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, that's too weird of a coincidence. He goes to her estate, her old friend that's like in control of her like house and her estate and her things. Comes to find out, like, the lady, he shows the lady he's got the watch, and she's like, what are you doing with that watch? It went missing the night she died. He's like, oh my God, she died the night that I saw her? Like, that's even more weird. And she's saying that watch meant everything to her. Like, I don't know why she would have given that to you. And then as he's like finding out more stuff, he comes to find out that the record she was listening to when she died is his favorite piece of music of all time by Rachmaninoff. That there's no way she would have known that, or vice versa. And he's just like, this isn't making sense. And then he comes to find out that she was obsessed with reading books about time travel. So then he's like, wait a minute, what's going on with this? And he gets this idea. He goes to meet the professor that wrote this one book and asks him if time travel is possible. And the professor explains to him, well, I think it is. You can hypnotize your mind. I did this once in a hotel in Italy that was 500 years old, and I was able to convince myself that I was there, that I was back 500 years prior and everything. And I believed that I was there. Like, but it was exhausting. Like, after I did it, it almost killed me because it was so physically exhausting on my body and my brain and everything. I almost didn't survive it. Lovelace is back. Hang on, I'm going to get rid of Lovelace here. I'd use her.
So Carrie Ann thinks this is a great movie. And,
well, she's got good taste.
Well,
Me and
Carrie
her
Ann,
have
like
similar
I said,
taste.
It's been a long time since I've seen this, so I think Carrie Ann, we should watch this when you get the chance. So we're about your synopsis. We're about 17 minutes into the
I know. So the point. Well, it's important that I explain this stuff. So anyway, the long and short of it is he goes and does a little investigating. Goes back to this hotel where he's at and everything, and starts getting it in his head. Like, wait a minute. Maybe I knew her. I had to have known her somehow. Like, was I there? Did I do that? Like, did I make this happen? And he goes with Arthur, the old bellhop guy's help, goes and digs out in the attic of the hotel and everything, pulls out old registry books and starts looking through them to find out when Elise was at the hotel there and everything with that picture. And then looks through and he finds his fucking name in the book. And he's like, holy shit, I actually did it. So that prompts him to then try to do it. I mean, no surprise, just from looking at the cover of the book. Obviously, he goes back in time. He does end up doing it. He meets her. I'm not going to tell you or anybody else what happens from there on. But the whole thing is, this is all spurned on. This all happens because of this watch. And the interesting thing about it, too, is the watch is also a paradox. Because she, in 1974, gave him the watch. When he goes back in time, he gives her the watch. So then she would, in the future, give him the watch again. Where did the watch come from? It's a paradox. You just never even find out where the watch came from.
Who had the watch first?
And there was no significance to this watch. So it's not like this watch belonged to somebody before, or that she bought it for him when he went back in time. No, it just existed. And nothing would have happened in this movie, even getting to the very end. Nothing would have happened in this movie if it wasn't for that watch that we don't even know where it came from, why it exists. It only exists. The only reason that watch literally exists in the universe was to bring them together. Because you don't even know an origin of where it came from. It's never explained. They don't even the characters in the movie cannot explain where this watch came from. Its only existence was to bring these two people together. So to me, that was like the ultimate MacGuffin. Do you agree?
I agree.
Okay.
100, without question. I think that, I think first of all, it absolutely drives the movie.
Right.
I love the idea of like this 6-year gap of it just kind of gets lost and then it kind of comes back out.
Right.
But there's that aspect to it. I also love the idea, again, with my idea of what a MacGuffin is, it's just something that dropped into your lap and then, takes you someplace. The fact that there is no real significance to the watch, like where it came from, that to me adds to the awesomeness of what a MacGuffin should be. So
right.
yeah, so
right.
without question,
that's why I picked it. I loved the paradoxical nature of this MacGuffin, that it quite literally drops into existence in these people's lives without them even like there is no explanation of how this thing even came into existence. It gets stuck in a paradoxical time loop because we no idea where it originated from. Both of these people got it from each other at different points in time and just gave it back to each other. And there's nothing about there's nothing special about the watch. It doesn't have a special inscription on it. It doesn't do a special thing. There's not even a thing where at some point it tells a particular time
it's not engraved. It doesn't have their photo inside of it. It's just
nothing.
A standard watch.
It's just a fucking watch that just causes this story to happen and causes these two people that literally live completely out of almost 100 years from one another, or it's 68 years or whatever it is at the time, to come together. And that's favorite. I'm like, that's so fucking cool. Like, yeah, this movie is great because it's got, the soundtrack is utterly amazing. It's got Rachmaninoff.
Your mom said yeah.
Oh yeah, my mom joined just in time, right? She loves. I know she and my dad are the reason I saw this movie, because they got it. We saw it on Spectrum TV back in 1981 or whatever it was. Yeah, it was like it was one of those movies. This movie did not do well at all. This movie bombed when it came out, and there was a lot of reasons for it. It wasn't even because it was a bad movie. It was right after Superman. People wanted Christopher Reeve to be Superman. They didn't want him to be this emotional, romantic playwright guy, The movie's kind of slow. All the music in it, it's all classical music. It's not, it wasn't hip. It also came out at a time when Hollywood there was a big strike that went on in Hollywood at the exact time this movie was coming out, so they couldn't promote it. The actors weren't allowed to go on like Carson and all that and promote it because that would have been going against breaking the strike and all this stuff. So the movie faded, and that's why it wound up on Spectrum TV and HBO, old HBO back in it wound up like just a few months later, which was unheard of at the time. It used to take a long time for things to turn up on video and stuff back then, not like now. We saw it on Spectrum like in late 1980, early 1981, and it just became a favorite movie because I was interested in it because it had fucking Superman in it. I was 7 years old and I was like, oh, it's got Superman in it. Okay, I'll watch it. And then I watched it and I was like, this isn't Superman. this is definitely not Superman. But what got me was the time travel aspect of it. Always loved time travel. As I got older, I appreciated the romantic aspect of it and the that whole story because I like good romances. And kind of fatalistic romance stuff I tend to fall for sometimes. And the soundtrack. I listen to the soundtrack for Somewhere in Time every single week. I can't remember the last week in the last several years that I haven't listened to that soundtrack. It's on my, if I put, at the end of the year when you get the thing from Spotify that's like your top played tracks, if I pulled that up for you right now, it's going to all be like the Somewhere in Time soundtrack, Dave Brubeck Quartet, and Norah Jones. That's mostly what I listen to on because that's what I put on when I sleep. That's what I put on when I'm working and I need to relax. I put this shit on in the background. I can't sit there and listen to fucking Deicide, you know what I mean? And Obituary and stuff when I'm doing all that kind of stuff. This is what I listen to. So anyway, that's why it had to be my number one.
Nice. I like I said, I haven't seen it in years, and I very vaguely remember any of the plot at all, and the fact that
good. I'd like you to watch it again then, because the ending. Oh,
yeah,
the ending. Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you anything about it.
Please
how
don't.
it ends. You're just like, oh, like yeah, it's great. So cool. Do you guys have any honorable mentions you'd like to bring up? And I mean, there's tons that we can.
There's a
bring up.
gazillion. I'm not even going to start on it.
Anything? Nothing?
You know, like again, there's so much stuff out there that, like, you know, as I was looking through some of the lists and things like that I'm like, oh yeah, I totally see that, but like I hadn't thought about it as a MacGuffin, like in that sense, like, you know, the dude's rug in The Big Lebowski.
Right. Yeah. There's a bunch of obvious ones.
Yeah. But like once you're like, oh yeah, now that I'm looking for it, that I see that there.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But
like,
any particular favorites like of movies?
You know, there's the Star Wars. I mean, there's the plans
Sure.
for the Death Star. I mean, but that was, you know,
Yeah.
because it's Star Wars. I mean, it's
Yeah, and even that. It's hard to think of
that's a
MacGuffins
low-
in Star Wars because everything in Star Wars, every detail in Star Wars is so iconic now that it's hard to look at anything as just being MacGuffin-y.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, inconsequential. The one that people laugh at, they'll be like, oh, God, here we go. Here's True Larry right here. So one of the things that was I almost put in my top 5, and then I thought better of it, but it's kind of a MacGuffin, is the talisman from Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. the talisman that gives Kiss their superpowers, man, and Kiss meets the fucking Phantom.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it set anybody, but it set me on my path. Let me tell you, when I was 5 years old, October 28th, 1978, NBC, 7 o'clock, movie of the week. Those talisman, whew. But no, seriously, I thought that was kind of a thing because, again, you don't really, they just sort of fall into it and you're like, okay, now there's Talis. Like, you come to find out that, like, well, that's why Kiss is more than just a rock band, and it becomes this whole thing. And then the guy who's the Phantom, Abner Devereaux, wants to get his hands on it. It becomes this whole thing, and you never even get an explanation of where the fuck those things came from. I get, it's probably more plot devicey than MacGuffin, but you know, any excuse I get to mention Kiss Meets the Phantom.
And that's fair. Well, and going back to, you know, for me, what started this whole conversation was the movie Red Notice. I love that at one point, like, again, the basic plot of the movie is that there's an art heist going on and they're looking for these 3 specific eggs that are out there somewhere, and they finally come across the area where the third one is located, and it's The Rock and it's Ryan Reynolds, and it's Ryan Reynolds just being Ryan Reynolds, doing what he does. But at one point, The Rock's like, well, what are we even looking for in here? And Ryan Reynolds is like, just look for a box marked MacGuffin. And it was like the call out of that kind of breaking that fourth wall of what it is.
Which Ryan is the king of.
Yeah, absolute king of. But that's what I loved about, like, that movie particularly. And once I was thinking about that, there are a couple other movies that do that breaking of the fourth wall that's self-referential,
right.
and I had them listed, and now I've completely forgotten what they were. So I'll probably add them in at a later point. But to me, I think that's what I also liked about it too, is that, you know, there are certain movies that are out there that, like, they just acknowledge, yes, this is put here just to move the plot along. There's no real purpose other than the fact we need to get from here to here, and this is the object that's going to do it.
Well, I like that we're getting, you know, part of why we wanted to do this as a live stream as opposed to a pre-record episode is we love getting the feedback in real time from you guys. There's a few people bringing up stuff. Joe Juarez brings up about how about R2-D2, because now the thing about that is George Lucas himself stated that he believes, and he intentionally made R2-D2 to be the MacGuffin. Like, he identified it, and it's his movie and his character, as being the MacGuffin. And it's weird because I wouldn't have thought of that. But it makes sense because R2-D2 is kind of the MacGuffin of the entire Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Because he's the only character, I think, that's in everything. Mm-hmm. He's in the prequels, he's in the main movies, he's in the sequels, he's in
Boba Fett and Mando.
Boba Fett. Yeah, he's in all the. He is the one thing that kind of ties it along, and he always somehow helps to drive it along. It's okay, you know, it's kind of veiled, but I wouldn't have thought of that. You know, to me, I would have been like, oh no, R2-D2, he's too major of a character, and blah blah blah. But. Yeah. So that's interesting.
Joe had just asked, you know, what about the rhetorical question from Batman Begins of why do we fall? And to me, that's not that MacGuffin. It's the Oscar question of, like, it's a question that's posed to you,
right? That
then there's a thought process that goes with that. And to me, I feel like it needs to be a physical object of some kind.
Yeah, animal, vegetable, or mineral.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Baby from Willow. God, I haven't seen Willow since I've been a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but fair enough, and that gets into the whole thing where again, there's some people out there who think that a MacGuffin can be a person, it can be a character,
And they do just happen across a baby.
Yeah, that baby just but
down the river,
but
and there it
again,
is.
I feel like the baby is so well explained about who Alora Dannon is and everything. That's her name, Alora Dannon. If I hear fucking Willow say that one more goddamn time, oh, fucking Willow. Anyway, but I feel like Alora Dannon is so well explained as to what she is, what her purpose is, what she's going to be. I don't know. I don't feel like she's quite nebulous enough to be a true MacGuffin, but kind of. Yeah. Kind of MacGuffy. It's MacGuffish.
Yeah, Carrie Ann had just mentioned the Chester Copperpot article from Goonies when they're up in the attic. I mean, that's a quintessential MacGuffin. Everything happens because of that article
and the map, and and finding that map. Yeah, Chester Copperpot's.
Even
it's kind of like the Secret Lives with Charlotte.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Fair.
that's exactly that whole thing. To me, most recently in The Mandalorian, I think the Darksaber is a fantastic MacGuffin.
Yeah.
That pushes things into where the next season is going to go. And even, and then the Book of Boba Fett, it popped up a little bit in there too.
Right.
That there's a lot of that motivation that comes from that. So I know we had talked about at some point, wanting to discuss a little bit more about the Book of Boba Fett and things like that. So I'm curious to kind of talk to you guys more about the idea of the Darksaber and where that goes.
Well, what a nice segue that is, Matthew, because while we are done with the top 5 movie MacGuffins, and we appreciate everybody that's watched this and everybody that watched it with us live and took part in the whole conversation here, that's the next thing we've got coming out, is that the three of us are going to do, we didn't do an episode by episode one, it was just too hard to do, but we're going to do a whole Book of Boba Fett series 1, like recap, our thoughts on it, pros and cons of it and stuff. I have a feeling we're going to go around about some of it a little bit. I already can tell, I think there's some differing opinions on this show between us, but so if you all are interested in hearing us talk about Book of Boba Fett, that's going to be coming up soon, probably next week, I think is around.
Yeah, give everybody time to watch the last episode.
Right, yeah, because it's going to be spoilery.
Oh, yeah.
So, we won't want people to watch it if they haven't seen all the Book of Boba Fett episodes yet. But that is going to be the next thing. Another Star Wars MacGuffin, Anakin's lightsaber. Yeah, that's what we were saying. There's so many things in Star Wars that could be MacGuffins. I mean, gosh, you could make a fucking list of them. That R2 one is really cool. I need to think about that one a little bit because, like I said, I read about Lucas calling it a MacGuffin, and I at first I went, what? But there's something to be said for that, possibly. But yeah, we had a really good time. This was fun.
Yeah, we did not keep it to an hour.
That's okay. There was a lot to discuss, and I think we covered it all really, really well.
Yeah, there's too much to discuss to keep it to an hour. But, the beauty of
2.5 is close enough, right?
we like to round up to the nearest
2.25.
Yeah, 2.25 is going to be what it is. But the beauty of it is that you can rewatch this or re-listen to it, and you can always just pause it and take it in little doses if you want to, it's tough on the people that sat through this whole thing live that are like, come on guys, it's 10:30 at night now. But anyway,
I want to thank that Lovelace XYZ. I mean, I think the spam that you brought to this conversation, it was through the roof. So give yourself a big.
You know why the spam bot kept coming back in there? Because it was totally pissed about your fucking bagging on Oscar.
Oh, I think it was just pissed about Oscar.
Yeah.
Either way.
I love you.
Lovelace XY Oscar. Yeah. So anyway, thanks everybody. It's been a pleasure, and we will be back very soon. So see y'all.